Chapter 154, Family Matters Settled. Lin Hao was not surprised by his children's dissatisfaction with Lin Baiken, nor did he take it to heart. This world was a world where the strong were supreme. Within the Lin family, Lin Hao was the absolute strong one and the absolute authority. Everything Lin Baiken had done over the years was carried out under Lin Hao's instructions. Therefore, to a certain extent, Lin Baiken could represent Lin Hao's will. As long as the tasks Lin Hao asked Lin Baiken to do were executed unwaveringly, that was enough. As for the attitudes of the other children toward Lin Baiken, Lin Hao didn't care, and neither did Lin Baiken. Their attitudes were trivial and had no impact whatsoever on Lin Baiken. As the chairman of Taoduoduo Mall, Lin Yufeng was very clear about what Lin Baiken had insisted on doing over the years, and he also knew this was his father's intention. Naturally, he wouldn't be hostile to Lin Baiken. On the contrary, he strongly supported Lin Baiken on multiple occasions, just like right now. Lin Yufeng smiled at Lin Baiken and said, "Baiken, let's have a good chat later about the development of Taoduoduo Mall. From now on, the two of us will be partners forever." Lin Baiken naturally nodded in agreement. "All right, big brother." Lin Hao suddenly said, it is indeed time to chat properly about the development of Taoduoduo Mall. I have previously communicated with many high-ranking executives of the Virtual Universe Corporation. From now on, our Taoduoduo Mall will be a department within the Virtual Universe Corporation, and it will only be responsible to me alone. That is to say, from now on, Taoduoduo Mall will expand across the entire human territory. In the future, I will need the two of you to put in more effort. Lin Yufeng and Lin Baiken exchanged a glance and said, "Yes, father." Lin Hao looked at the other children and said, "If you also want to obtain the opportunity to become immortal level, then work hard. As long as you earn enough contributions, I can also give you the opportunity to become immortal level." After saying this, Lin Hao glanced at Lin Wanyan and Lin Yichen and said, "The two of you have the best talent among all my children. Wanyan, I still hope that you can rely on your own efforts to become immortal level. By then, I will give you an even better reward." Hearing this, Lin Wanyan nodded repeatedly. "I understand, I will work hard." Lin Hao looked at Lin Yichen. "Yichen, your talent is much better than Wanyan's, so my demands for you are even higher. I hope that one day I can receive the good news of your breakthrough to Universe Exalt. Similarly, by then I will give you a better reward. I will definitely not let you down." Lin Yichen nodded and said, "All right, father. I plan to stay at the World Lord rank for quite a long time." Regarding Lin Yichen's decision, Lin Hao did not object. That is fine too, but you must manage your time well so that your lifespan doesn't run out before breaking through to immortal level." Lin Yichen smiled and said, "Rest assured, father. I have a measure in my heart. If I want to make a breakthrough to immortal level, it will only take a few thousand years." Seeing Lin Yichen's confident appearance, Lin Hao nodded. That's good." Lin Hao turned his head to look at his many children and said, "All right, you may all withdraw. I hope you can all remember today's words. I have many children, among whom the outstanding ones are Lin Wanru and Lin Yichen. If you fail to become immortal level, although I will feel sad, I won't grieve too deeply. Of course I hope you can all become immortal level and enjoy the beauty of an endless lifespan together, but if someone cannot become immortal level, I can accept that as well." Lin Hao's words were quite merciless and even somewhat too cruel. However, Lin Hao's children were not young anymore, even the youngest had lived for over 30,000 years. They were long past being children, and naturally had to bear the consequences of doing something wrong. After finishing, Lin Hao had them leave, keeping only Lin Yufeng and Lin Baiken behind. They still needed to stay to discuss the expansion of Taoduoduo Mall. Lin Hao looked at his wives except for Xinghuan, and said, "Your talents are not high, and it is very difficult for you to make a breakthrough to immortal level, so I will give you enough resources to break through to immortal level." The four wives immediately beamed with joy. Obtaining an endless lifespan, who wouldn't like that? The joy of the wives went without saying. Lin Hao looked at Xinghuan and said, "Xinghuan, your talent is very good. Making a breakthrough to immortal level should not be a problem. For a long time to come, I will have free time, and I can guide you in comprehending the law." Hearing this, Xinghuan was also overjoyed. All right, big brother Lin. Finally, Lin Hao looked at Lin Feng. Big brother, if you hope for your wives and children to make a breakthrough to immortal level, you can also come find me. These resources are nothing to me right now. Lin Feng smiled and said, all right. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Give me 4 spots, 2 wives and 2 children, that's just right. Lin Hao nodded and said, no problem, I'll have someone send them over to you later. Finally, Lin Hao said to Lin Zhen and Lin Feng, right, if you encounter any problems in your cultivate, I can also answer a thing or two. Regarding this, neither Lin Zhen nor Lin Feng refused. Guidance from a universe lord, this was a rare opportunity in the outside world. What was even better was that this universe lord was actually their own close relative. Only a fool would refuse. As for the matter of Lin Zhen, a father, actually having to ask his son for advice, Lin Zhen didn't take it to heart at all. As long as he could become stronger, what did this count for? Afterwards, the crowd dispersed, leaving only Lin Yufeng and Lin Baiken behind. Before the topic could unfold, Lin Baiken suddenly knelt on the ground. Father. What about Wanru? Lin Hao looked at Lin Baiken, understanding his meaning. Lin Baiken's wife was precisely Lin Wanru, Lin Hao's 15th daughter. The two of them had a deep affection and were exceptionally loving. Part of the reason was Lin Baiken's thorough pampering and care, and another part was Lin Wanru's own non-contending nature. After marriage, their relationship was harmonious, and they were the premier model couple among Lin Hao's numerous children. Or it could be said that they were the only couple among Lin Hao's children who were still as deeply in love as they were in the beginning. As for the other children, even Lin Yufeng didn't know how many partners he had gone through. Of course, it was also possible that Lin Baiken feared Lin Hao's majesty and thus dared not mess around. But judging by deeds rather than intent, over tens of thousands of years, the affection between the couple Lin Baiken and Lin Wanru had transcended romantic love, becoming nearly indistinguishable from one another. Lin Hao smiled and said, Baiken, you don't need to worry about Wanru's matter, I have my own arrangements. Lin Wanru had always had a non-contending personality, and after marrying Lin Baiken, she felt even more at ease staying home to assist her husband and raise their children. After their son reached adulthood, Lin Wanru spent most of her time passing the days in the virtual universe. Games, novels, TV shows, and so on, Lin Wanru was tirelessly immersed in them. Not to mention committing evil deeds like the other children, she didn't even kill many people in the games within the virtual universe. At most, she was just a casual player who liked to spend money. Naturally, Lin Hao did not detest such a daughter, nor would he be stingy in giving her the resources to achieve immortal level. Hearing Lin Hao's words, Lin Baiken also set his mind at ease. Chapter 155 Meeting Pudi again. After giving Lin Yufeng and Lin Baiken some instructions, Lin Hao no longer worried about the matters of Taoduoduo Mall. With Universe Lord Lin Hao backing them up, coupled with being affiliated under the Virtual Universe Corporation, the development speed of Taoduoduo Mall would be unstoppable. No one would be blind enough to provoke Taoduoduo Mall. Lin Yufeng and Lin Baiken only needed to advance by leaps and bounds. It could be foreseen that the number of Lin Hao's offspring would experience explosive growth. Lin Hao glanced at the panel information. Open black lens bracket comprehension ability, 5.3 billion close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket offspring owned, 8.1 G people can be expanded to view details close black lens bracket. Lin Hao thought to himself, this is the moment for the golden finger to play its role. What is a universe strongest? It is merely a true God. Beyond that are the void true God, eternal true God, chaos dominator, God king, and even the Hunyuan realm. And there are 2 routes to becoming a true God realm, one is the law route, and the other is the divine power route. All true gods throughout the entire universe see achieved true godhood through the law route. The so-called inability to walk the same path, generally speaking, requires one to use law comprehension to self-create a 6th-tier secret technique. Relatively speaking, the law route is simpler. As for the divine power route, it is much more difficult. Achieving true godhood via the divine power route requires increasing one's own life gene multiplier, breaking through the 10,081-fold limit. As long as it reaches over 30,000 times, one can achieve true godhood. 30,000 times is just the threshold of the divine power route, and after that are 3 levels: 60,000 times, 90,000 times, and 100,000 times. Every single level will obtain a qualitative leap. Regardless of combat power or potential, the divine power route far exceeds the law route. Lin Hao naturally tended to break through to the true God realm via the divine power route. But this path was very difficult, requiring continuous breakthroughs in one's own gene level. And wanting to raise the gene level was relatively easier below 10,000 times, as various treasures within the primordial universe could accomplish this. This was also the choice of the vast majority of universe lords. But after exceeding 10,000 times, the treasures within the primordial universe became useless. Even Zuo Shenqi's 9 tribulations secret code could not achieve this point. It required adjusting one's genes through oneself, thereby breaking through to a higher gene level. During this process, a large amount of gene materials was needed for analysis and research. Within the primordial universe, wanting to find these gene materials was not easy. It required a lot of time to search and collect them, and some gene materials were even out of print. However, Lin Hao knew that Zuo Shenq definitely had these materials. Even if Zuo Shenq at this time could not provide more materials capable of breaking through the 10,000-fold gene level, he could at least provide some materials reaching the 10,000-fold limit. After all, the Yanshan clan was guided out by Zuo Shenq, and Zuo Shenq had also created such a heaven-defying cultivation technique as the 9 tribulations secret code. Not having these materials would be unreasonable. Even if he was a god king in his past life, he still had to follow the rules in the primordial universe. Lin Hao found the divine power token given by Pudi from his world ring. This was the token Pudi gave him when he first saw Pudi's Universe Exalt clone. Zuo Shenq gave Lin Hao a task: defeat Pudi's Universe Exalt level clone within 100,000 years, and he could become Zuo Shenqi's named disciple. Lin Hao asked what would happen if he became a Universe Lord within 100,000 years. Zuo Shenq then added a task: become a Universe Lord within 100,000 years, and directly become Zuo Shenqi's disciple. Now, only a little over 20,000 years had passed since the original agreement, and Lin Hao had already become a Universe Lord. Becoming Zuo Shenqi's disciple, from a long-term perspective, could yield gene-level materials. From a short-term perspective, it could also obtain some supreme treasure benefits. It could be called 100 benefits without a single harm. However, Lin Hao found it somewhat strange. Although the human race had not yet held a celebratory event for him becoming a Universe Lord, Immortal-level figures with backgrounds should all know about this matter. Pudi's Universe Exalt clone should also know about it, so why hadn't he contacted him? Lin Hao teleported to a desolate star domain and crushed Pudi's token. The next instant, Pudi's divine power incarnation appeared. He smiled and said, "Lin Hao, could it be that you broke through to Universe Exalt so quickly?" It had only been about a month since the two parted ways at the Star Tower. Pudi thought Lin Hao had broken through to the Universe Exalt realm, which was already considered astonishing talent for Lin Hao. As he spoke, Pudi's divine power incarnation stopped talking and stared intently at Lin Hao. A moment later, Pudi widened his eyes. You broke through to the Universe Lord realm." Lin Hao nodded and said, "Yeah, I broke through by fluke." Pudi was stunned for a moment before reacting, praising, "What a terrifying talent. It took me countless years to break through to the Universe Lord realm, and I considered my talent to be pretty good, but compared to you, my talent is simply not worth mentioning. Becoming a Universe Lord in a mere tens of thousands of years, such talent is simply shocking." Lin Hao modestly said, "Senior Pudi flatters me." Lin Hao then asked, "Now that I have already become a Universe Lord, how should I find Senior Zuo Shenq?" Pudi said, "Please wait a moment, I am contacting teacher." Lin Hao nodded and said, "Sorry to trouble Senior Pudi." Pudi corrected, "Soon we will be senior brothers." Lin Hao nodded, then asked the doubt in his heart, Senior Pooty, the matter of me becoming a Universe Lord has long spread within the human race, why do you seem completely unaware of it? Pooty sighed. Sigh, this matter is hard to explain in a few words. For some reason, my friends in the human race have successively stayed away from me, and I haven't held any positions in the race, so my information has been much more isolated these past few years. Lin Hao understood inwardly. Earlier when Pooty's Universe Exalt clone saw Lin Hao, Ice Peak Lord was hiding nearby and saw it with his own eyes. With Zuo Shenk as a teacher, even if the human race learned Pooty's true identity, they would not rashly make a move against him. This was the act of making an enemy for no reason. But appropriate marginalization was still necessary. Lin Hao gave a light cough. Senior Pooty, it's better not to use your identity in the human race in the future. In fact, the first time you and I met that day, my teacher Ice Peak Lord was watching from the side. By now, Lin Hao did not intend to hide it anymore. With his strength, there was no longer any need to have scruples about anything. And this was actually just a small matter. After some time, if Pooty truly realized that his identity was exposed, he would definitely suspect that Lin Hao was the one who leaked it, which wouldn't look good then. Speaking it out directly at this moment could also be considered being frank and open with each other. Hearing this, Pooty was slightly startled, then shook his head with a smile, so that's how it is. That being said, this clone of mine can indeed be withdrawn. He didn't care too much about this. Aside from finding it a bit of a pity to discard an identity he had used for so long, there was no real loss. Soon, Pooty's expression turned solemn as he said, Lin Hao, teacher has spoken, telling us to go see him. Hearing this, Lin Hao nodded and said, okay. A moment later, Pooty arrived by Lin Hao's side through God Kingdom teleportation. The two walked into the God Kingdom passage. Chapter 156, Apprenticing to Zuo Shenk. In a desolate border region of the universe, Lin Hao and Pooty arrived here together. This place was incomparably desolate, let alone life, even the universe energy was extremely thin. Lin Hao asked, Senior Pooty, where is Senior Zuo Shenk? Pooty said, don't rush, he will be here immediately. The two waited for a few more breaths. Suddenly, an old man wearing cyan armor, with a pair of crystal-clear double horns on his forehead and a height of over 90,000 kilometers, appeared. This was precisely Zuo Shenk. Pooty took the lead in saluting, saying, Teacher, Lin Hao has already become a Universe Lord. Lin Hao also bowed in salute. Zuo Shenk did not speak, only carefully sizing up Lin Hao. He thought to himself, this kid completely looks like an ordinary life form, how could he have such heaven-defying comprehension ability? Being so favored by the original universe he shouldn't be a reincarnation person. Could it be that he is truly just a genius with astonishing comprehension ability? Even when Zuo Shenk came with his true body this time, he still found it somewhat difficult to understand Lin Hao. Judging from Lin Hao's experiences, he didn't have any major encounters, and his greatest opportunity was probably that eternal continent clone. However, Zuo Shenk had also obtained the remains of that World Lord rank Eternal Continent body back then, and this clone had nothing special other than its huge size. Soon, Zuo Shenk stopped dwelling on this and spoke, Lin Hao, I didn't expect you to reach the Universe Lord realm in just 20,000 years. You were not bad. Then, are you still willing to apprentice to me now? If you are not willing, I won't force you. Lin Hao immediately bowed and saluted, saying, Disciple is willing. Zuo Shenk slightly nodded, good. Then from now on, you are my third disciple. You have two senior brothers, the eldest senior brother is Pooty, and the second senior brother is Emperor Yan of the Yanshan clan. Zuo Shenk sighed, originally, I prepared two supreme treasures for the leader of your origin star lineage. One is the Star Tower, which is a supreme divine treasure, and the second is the Jia Armor, which is a peak supreme treasure. There's no need to elaborate on the Star Tower, you should have some understanding of it, and the Jia Armor requires you to cultivate the 9 Tribulations secret code to use it. But unfortunately, you did not choose to make the Star Tower recognize you as its master. Therefore, the 9 Tribulations secret code cannot be cultivated either, ultimately leading to even the Jia Armor being unusable. Therefore, these two supreme treasures have no affinity with you. Lin Hao bowed in silence. The Jia armor was indeed good, but as for the Star Tower, he really did not want that thing. If he had tried to make it recognize him as its master back then with the World Lord rank realm, it would have really gotten someone killed. Luo Feng continued, however, I have also refined some supreme treasures in the past. I can let you freely choose 3 pieces as compensation. What do you think? Lin Hao's eyes lit up. Luo Feng was indeed magnanimous. He quickly said, everything is up to teacher's arrangement. Luo Feng nodded slightly, however, these 3 supreme treasures are not given to you for free. I want you to promise me one thing. Lin Hao said, teacher, please speak. Luo Feng pointed at Puti and said, your eldest senior brother's true body has been garrisoning the Star Tower for a long time, all for the purpose of selecting someone from your origin star lineage who can make the Star Tower recognize them as master. Now that you are the leader of the origin star lineage, I am handing this task over to you. Are you willing? Garrisoning the Star Tower. Lin Hao was stunned. He wasn't that resistant to this matter, except that he only had 2 bodies, a human original body and an eternal continent. Clone. The eternal continent clone was far too massive and couldn't be moved at all. It was definitely impossible for the human original body to be stationed in the Star Tower permanently in the future. This chore wasn't easy to handle. Lin Hao said, teacher, disciple is willing to garrison the Star Tower. However, disciple's other clone is far too massive and cannot be moved at all. Only the human original body can garrison the Star Tower. But the human original body still needs to take care of the human race here, so I worry that I won't be able to attend to both sides. Luo Feng did not speak, but Puti on the side smiled upon hearing this and said, junior brother worries too much. The Star Tower is a supreme divine treasure, and absolutely no one can shake it. Therefore, it doesn't matter even if it is placed there without anyone garrisoning it. You only need to properly nurture the younger generation of your origin star lineage, let more geniuses appear, and ultimately cultivate someone who can make the Star Tower recognize them as master. Lin Hao looked toward Luo Feng. He saw Luo Feng nod slightly and say, you don't need to worry about the Star Tower. Seeing this, Lin Hao also set his mind at ease, since it is so, disciple is willing to accept this task. Luo Feng said again, in addition, I deposited the Jia armor, the supreme treasure of your origin star lineage, with your second senior brother. Although you cannot use it, you can take it back to keep in custody until the person who can make the Star Tower recognize them as master appears, and then give it to him. Lin Hao nodded and agreed, disciple understands. Luo Feng said further, aside from that, Emperor Yan also has the origin soul, a soul-type peak supreme treasure. It can also nurture 4 types of sub-souls, soldier soul, general soul, king soul, and emperor soul. These sub-souls can only be used by your origin star souls, and they can respectively grant 1,000 to 100 million times the World Lord soul power. You can go to Emperor Yan's place to obtain some sub-souls. Lin Hao, yes, teacher. Afterwards, Luo Feng gave Lin Hao a set of coordinates and said, this is my secluded dwelling place, and all my treasures are also here. You can go take a look and choose any 3 supreme treasures from the treasure vault to take away. Lin Hao said with great joy, thank you, teacher. Luo Feng was truly too generous. This was the treasure vault of the past life's god King Luo Feng. Even if all the supreme treasures refined in this lifetime by Luo Feng were inside, it would still be enough to drive countless powerhouses crazy for them. Even without supreme divine treasures, there were still quite a few good things. Luo Feng looked toward Puti and said, you go along as well. At that time, you can also choose 1 supreme treasure to take away, considered as a reward for your hard work garrisoning the Star Tower all these years. Puti quickly said, thank you, teacher. After Luo Feng finished speaking, he disappeared. Puti smiled and said, junior brother, this time I have shared in your good fortune. Lin Hao said, eldest senior brother speaks too seriously, you have garrisoned the Star Tower for many years and rendered great service. Puti laughed heartily, then changed the subject to remind him, right, junior brother, if you go to second senior brother's place to ask for the Jia armor and the origin soul sub-souls, you must be a bit careful. Second senior brother's temper is somewhat eccentric, it's best to be sure you can contend with him before going. Lin Hao naturally knew Emperor Yan's personality. Selfish, vengeful, and ungrateful were Emperor Yan's best descriptions. Furthermore, at this time Emperor Yan not only had the origin soul protecting his soul, but also the Jia armor protecting his body. Coupled with the Yanshan halberd. With 3 peak supreme treasures on his body, ordinary universe lords really couldn't do anything to Emperor Yan. However, Lin Hao really wanted to visit the Yanshan clan once. Previously, when King Liang was in his coma, Lin Hao had once analyzed his genes. He was extremely interested in the Yanshan clan's ability to autonomously evolve their gene levels. Moreover, the Yanshan clan's gene map was Zuo Shenqi's masterpiece. Even if it was just a casual creation by this past life god king, it was definitely not simple. It was worth him studying seriously for a long time. If he could capture a few million Yanshan clan individuals to study, that would be even better. Let alone someone with Emperor Yan's personality for this kind of thing, even someone with the best temper would fly into a rage. Therefore, although Emperor Yan's personality was terrible, Lin Hao was truly going to provoke him. Chapter 157 Treasure Vault. During this meeting with Zuo Shank, Lin Hao did not immediately show any intention of wanting to walk the divine power path. Firstly, the divine power path had not yet spread widely in this universe C. Secondly, the master-disciple relationship between the two had just been established, and bringing it up abruptly would seem a bit out of place. Thirdly, both of them were currently in the primordial universe, which was the home ground of the original universe will. If he really spoke of it, he feared it would alert the original universe will. The most correct approach was for Lin Hao and Zuo Shank to cooperate with tacit understanding. Lin Hao would show interest in raising his gene level, while Zuo Shank would provide gene materials for him to study. In this way, when Lin Hao went to the Yanshan secret region to capture people of the Yanshan clan, it would logically lead to his interest in researching divine power. Thus, he could naturally make a request to Zuo Shank for various gene materials to conduct research. He was not afraid that Zuo Shank would despise him just because he wanted to research the genes of the Yanshan clan. Zuo Shenqi's purpose was very simple, which was to cultivate a disciple who could become a helper in his revenge. In this process, no matter how many sacrifices were made, it was worth it to him. Although the Yanshan clan was a race created by Zuo Shank, its status in his heart was not high. Especially after strong practitioners of the Yanshan clan like Emperor Yan appeared, it made Zuo Shank even more disappointed. Emperor Yan might be worthy of being called a strong practitioner within the primordial universe. But he could not even rank at all in the Universe C, let alone help Zuo Shank with his revenge. Under the kingdom teleportation of Pudi, Lin Hao arrived at the address left behind by Zuo Shank. This was an extremely remote territory in the universe, more than 90 billion light-years away from the human race. Yet the scenery here was even more desolate. Within a range of 1 billion light-years in diameter, there was not even a single star. Large planets were also extremely scarce, and even asteroids were rarely seen. This was precisely the region called the Void Land by various races within the universe. There were still many void lands like this within the universe. Between star regions and star regions, there were also similar areas. It was just that those areas were not as massive in volume as this one. Pudi and Lin Hao stood within the Void Realm. Pudi said, "This is where Teacher's Supreme Treasure Vault is located. We just need to wait a moment, and Teacher will guide us in." As soon as Pudi finished speaking, a golden bridge appeared in front of the two. One could see that this golden bridge seemed to be cast from spar, crystal clear and shimmering with golden light. Pudi said, "Let's go, let's enter." Pudi stepped onto the golden bridge first, with Lin Hao following closely behind. As their footsteps fell, every step brought drastic changes in space. Every step spanned a distance of over 10 million light-years. Even from Lin Hao's current perspective, this spatial method was quite wondrous. All of this was the function of the golden bridge beneath their feet. Lin Hao faintly saw countless secret patterns of spatial law within the golden bridge. The two quickly walked to the end of the Golden Bridge. At this point, within the coordinates of the primordial universe, the two had spanned a distance of 1.2 billion light-years. Seeing this, Lin Hao could not help but marvel at the Golden Bridge beneath his feet. A universe lord could only teleport 10,000 light-years at a single time. Yet this Golden Bridge, with a mere distance of 100 meters, spanned 1.2 billion light-years. Lin Hao looked at Pooty and asked, "Senior brother, teacher said I can freely choose 3 supreme treasures, then is the Golden Bridge beneath our feet included?" Hearing this, Pooty was slightly stunned, then smiled and said, "It should be included, but you had better ask teacher." While speaking, a figure stood at the end of the Golden Bridge, and it was precisely Luo Feng. Pooty and Lin Hao hurriedly stepped forward to pay their respects. "Teacher, we have arrived." However, the feeling Luo Feng gave Lin Hao at this moment was somewhat different. His aura was not as terrifying as before. Lin Hao thought to himself, this should be the divine power incarnation of teacher Luo Feng. He had long guessed that Luo Feng's true body was in the universe year-round and would not easily enter the primordial universe. Perhaps it was to show emphasis on himself previously that he returned to the primordial universe with his true body. After finishing taking disciples, he left again, Lin Hao thought. Luo Feng looked at Lin Hao and asked, "Are you sure you want this Golden Bridge?" Lin Hao hurriedly said, "Teacher, disciple was just joking just now, please do not blame me, teacher." Luo Feng did not mind either, and merely said, "This Golden Bridge is a special type supreme treasure casually refined by me, considered a top-tier supreme treasure. However, apart from shortening spatial distance, it has no other uses, and you should have no use for it." Afterwards, Luo Feng took a step forward and walked ahead. "Let's go, the treasures here are of little use to you." Lin Hao and Pooty hurriedly followed. While walking forward, Lin Hao looked around and examined his surroundings. The palace was a flying palace type supreme treasure, and the pool was a domain type supreme treasure. The surrounding grass, stones, flower beds, and so on were all top-tier materials. The palace was where Luo Feng's supreme treasure vault was located, so Lin Hao found it hard to ask for it, but the pool. Lin Hao looked at the pool and thought in his heart, this domain-type supreme treasure is not bad either. It looks like a top-tier domain-type supreme treasure. Although Luo Feng was walking in front, he had always been paying attention to Lin Hao's reactions. Seeing his appearance, he knew that he was eyeing his pool. Luo Feng could not help but shake his head and smile. "This pool is a domain-type supreme treasure I specially crafted. Its binding ability is extremely weak, and giving it to you wouldn't matter, but with your talent and potential, I'm afraid you won't need it very soon." Hearing this, Lin Hao no longer looked at the pool, instead asking, "Teacher, regarding the 3 supreme treasures you are bestowing upon me, do you have any recommendations?" Luo Feng said, "There are no recommendations, everything is chosen by yourself. However, if you are not very clear about the functions of certain supreme treasures, I can clear your doubts." Hearing this, Lin Hao was overjoyed. "Many thanks, teacher." With Luo Feng guiding him on the side, Lin Hao would not need to worry about choosing the wrong supreme treasure. The 3 quickly arrived in a hall. Luo Feng pointed at the various objects within the hall and said, "This is my treasure vault. The vast majority of supreme treasures are here, you may choose them yourselves." Lin Hao looked toward the various objects inside the hall. Inside the hall, one apparatus after another was placed, and on the apparatuses were placed pieces of knives, swords, ropes, cables, shuttles, maces, hammers, axes, bells, towers, boats, balls, flowers, grasses, cloth, shields, statues, cubes, all sorts of items, bizarre and varied, numbering in the thousands, scattered throughout the hall. Not only were those items supreme treasures, even the apparatuses displaying the items were supreme treasures. Lin Hao even doubted whether the human race had as many supreme treasures as there were here, and whether the quality was as good as the ones here. Luo Feng said, "Pooty, Lin Hao, off you go." Pooty and Lin Hao were not polite either. After paying respects to Luo Feng, they walked into the hall. Lin Hao wandered around the hall, and the auras of countless supreme treasures rushed towards him, dazzling his eyes. Lin Hao was not in a hurry to choose, he inspected every single supreme treasure one by one. On the other side, Hooty seemed to have a target long ago, and he quickly selected a supreme treasure. Lin Hao glanced over and found that its aura was extraordinary, being a peak armor type supreme treasure. Hooty said respectfully, "Teacher, disciple has chosen." Luo Feng did not seem surprised either. Take it." He paused for a moment and continued, "When the person capable of master recognizing the star tower appears, I will give you a better treasure." Hooty said respectfully, "Thank you, teacher, for bestowing the treasure." Chapter 158, 3 Supreme Treasures. Lin Hao only took a glance before withdrawing his gaze. He refocused his attention on the supreme treasures before him. In fact, Lin Hao already possessed several supreme treasures on his body. Nebula Palace, Qishao Spear, Chaos Armor, Soul Fixing Bead, Floating Life is like a Dream. These supreme treasures varied in value, and the one with the highest value should be Floating Life is like a Dream. Although this soul attack type supreme treasure was merely an ordinary supreme treasure, if it were handed over to the human race, it would be worth at least 150 supreme treasure points or more. Chaos Armor was not easy to price. On the surface, it was merely an advanced supreme treasure, but in Lin Hao's hands, it was enough to unleash even greater power. Even if he had not self-created a defense-type secret method combining 3 laws like the Gold-Water-Space Fusion Law, just by using Chaos Armor with his mastery level of the Gold-Water-Space Fusion Law, it was enough to unleash power surpassing that of an advanced supreme treasure. It was foreseeable that as Lin Hao's mastery over the combination of the 3 laws grew higher and higher, the power of Chaos Armor would also become stronger and stronger. Even when he self-created a defense-type secret method through the combination of the 3 laws, the might of Chaos Armor would be further enhanced. By then, it would not be impossible to unleash power comparable to a peak supreme treasure. Lin Hao sorted through the supreme treasures he possessed and finally decided on the category selections for the 3 supreme treasures. They were respectively the Flying Palace type, Domain type, and Close Combat Weapon type. Although Lin Hao had Nebula Palace for the Flying Palace type, it was after all only an ordinary supreme treasure, with average defensive capabilities and almost non-existent other abilities. It was enough for now, but given Lin Hao's speed of strength progression, it would definitely be eliminated very soon. Therefore, having a better Flying Palace type supreme treasure was very necessary. Lin Hao was not greedy to pursue a peak supreme treasure, having a top-tier Flying Palace type supreme treasure would do. A top-tier Flying Palace type supreme treasure was also the standard equipment for Tier 4 and Tier 5 Universe Lords within the Primordial Universe. There was no need to say much about Domain-type supreme treasures, their importance was equivalent to Flying Palace-type supreme treasures. Whether escaping or chasing down enemies, Domain-type supreme treasures were very useful. Comparatively, Domain-type supreme treasures and Flying Palace-type supreme treasures had higher value compared to other categories of supreme treasures. Choosing these two would definitely not be wrong. As for Close Combat Weapon type supreme treasures, it was because Lin Hao felt that Qishao Spear was somewhat insufficient to use. If there were a good peak Close Combat type supreme treasure, that would be perfect. Having thought this through, Lin Hao looked at the numerous supreme treasures in the hall. Soon, his gaze fell upon a tower-shaped supreme treasure. Unlike Star Tower, which was a supreme treasure closer to a pyramid in shape, this tower-shaped supreme treasure had a primitive appearance, resembling an exquisite pagoda, pitch black and lightless throughout, with a total of 13 pagoda tiers upon it. Lin Hao probed his consciousness into it. Soon, Lin Hao obtained the information regarding this supreme treasure. This tower was named Linglong Pagoda, and it was a peak supreme treasure with a total of 13 tiers. Each tier was an independent space, and each tier could seal enemies. Inside it were engraved endless secret patterns, profound and unpredictable. This type of supreme treasure did not distinguish between secret method tiers, instead, its power was determined by the mastery level of the internal secret methods and the strength of the divine power. Not to mention that its flight speed far exceeded Nebula Palace, it also possessed extremely strong defensive and sealing abilities, making its functions very powerful. Luo Feng's voice sounded right on cue. This Linglong Pagoda was a supreme treasure I refined after originally refining Star Tower, wishing to replicate Star Tower. Unfortunately, it failed. It is merely a peak supreme treasure, far less powerful than Star Tower, but it can still be considered pretty good. Replicating Star Tower. Lin Hao's pupils constricted, and then he understood. As for Zuo Shenqi's words, Lin Hao did not believe a single word. As someone undergoing transmigration, he knew all the countless secrets of this world. Star Tower was indeed refined by Zuo Shenq, but it was a God King level supreme treasure refined by him before his reincarnation. Not even a tiny bit of the materials used could be found in the entire Universe Sea. In the middle of it, a little accident also occurred. A streak of golden light merged into it, and that was how Star Tower came to be. Although this Linglong Pagoda was not bad, it was a supreme treasure refined after Zuo Shenqi's reincarnation. It wasn't even worthy of carrying Star Tower's shoes. Whether in terms of materials, quality, or the refiner's strength, they were worlds apart. Therefore, what Zuo Shenq had just said was basically utter nonsense. However, Zuo Shenq was right about one thing. This Linglong Pagoda was indeed good. In this hall, it could also be considered a supreme treasure ranked in the top 10. Lin Hao was very satisfied with this. He looked at Zuo Shenq and said, "Teacher, I want to choose Linglong Pagoda as the first supreme treasure." Zuo Shenq nodded in agreement. Very well. Lin Hao put away Linglong Pagoda and then looked at the second supreme treasure. This was a supreme treasure that resembled a cloud, looking like a piece of cotton candy. Lin Hao picked it up in his hands and probed his consciousness into it. A moment later, Lin Hao obtained the information regarding this supreme treasure. This was a peak domain type supreme treasure named Cloud Realm. It looked like a mere cloud in appearance, but internally it contained another universe. This Cloud Realm not only had functions such as trapping enemies, binding, and weakening attacks, but it also had the effects of confusing minds and disrupting perception. It also had an amplification effect on illusions and soul attacks. Furthermore, Lin Hao was about to receive guidance from Origin Ancestor, and by then the creation of soul-type secret methods would definitely be of utmost importance. As a result, the importance of this Cloud Realm to Lin Hao went without saying. Lin Hao looked at Zuo Shenq and said, "Teacher, I want to choose Cloud Realm as the second supreme treasure." Zuo Shenq nodded slightly. Good. After putting away Cloud Realm, Lin Hao began to choose the third supreme treasure. He hesitated among the numerous close combat type supreme treasures. It wasn't that he couldn't find a suitable peak close combat type supreme treasure, but rather that there were too many suitable choices. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, axes, and other supreme treasures all had one or two peak supreme treasures. Although Lin Hao had frequently used long spears before, he did not reject other close combat weapons. Just as he was hesitating, suddenly, he saw a jelly-shaped supreme treasure. Prior to this, he had obtained Floating Life is Like a Dream, which was also a jelly-shaped heavy treasure and supreme treasure. Floating Life is Like a Dream was divided into two parts. One part was a heavy treasure, and the other part was a supreme treasure. When combined together, they could be considered top-grade supreme treasures among ordinary supreme treasures. And it was still a soul attack type supreme treasure. And the jelly-shaped supreme treasure before his eyes gave Lin Hao a feeling very similar to Floating Life is Like a Dream. Just at this moment, Zuo Shenq laughed and said, "I can sense that you should have obtained Floating Life is Like a Dream, right? That is a soul attack type supreme treasure I refined previously. The supreme treasure before your eyes is also called Floating Life is Like a Dream. It can be considered an upgraded version, belonging to the level of advanced supreme treasures, and it can merge with your Floating Life is Like a Dream. The merged supreme treasure is roughly equivalent to the level of top-grade top-tier supreme treasures. Although it is not as good as a peak supreme treasure, it is very close." Lin Hao looked at the jelly-shaped supreme treasure before him and hesitated for a moment. Although peak close combat weapon type supreme treasures were good, this upgraded version of Floating Life is Like a Dream was clearly even better. Whether in terms of value or practicality, it far surpassed those peak close combat weapon type supreme treasures. Soon, Lin Hao made his decision. Teacher, for the third supreme treasure, I want the upgraded version of Floating Life is Like a Dream. Chapter 159 Strength Classification. The three treasures this time are respectively the Flight Palace type Peak Treasure Linglong Pagoda, the Domain type Peak Treasure Cloud Realm, and the Soul Attack type High Tier Treasure Floating Life is Like a Dream. Luo Feng smiled and said, "You brat really know how to picking all the high-value treasures. Alright, take this one as well." Luo Feng had a profound foundation. Although the three treasures were incomparably precious, they were nothing to him at all. In this single supreme treasure vault alone, there were still several treasures equivalent in value to these three treasures. And this supreme treasure vault was merely one of Luo Feng's treasure vaults. The vast majority of the treasures stored here were ordinary treasures after all. Lin Hao hurriedly expressed his gratitude. "Thank you, teacher, for bestowing the treasures." Luo Feng waved his hand, and a token flew over. "This is a communication token I refined. Keep it well. You can contact me if you have anything in the future. As long as you are not trapped in some extremely special places, you can contact me, even in the Universe Sea." Lin Hao respectfully took it. This communication token was actually also a treasure, just an ordinary treasure after all. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Teacher truly has a profound foundation. It seems I still need to come and scrounge for benefits more often in the future. The three of them left the Supreme Treasure Vault, and Luo Feng said, "Lin Hao, since I have already given you three treasures, then the task of selecting someone from your origin star lineage to make the Star Tower acknowledge its master is handed over to you." Lin Hao nodded and said, "Yes. This disciple will definitely do his utmost to complete the task." Luo Feng shook his head. "There's no need to be too anxious either. This matter cannot be rushed, just let everything happen naturally." Lin Hao nodded and said, "Yes. Disciple understands." Afterwards, Luo Feng looked at Pudi. Pudi understood tacitly, took out a metal plate and handed it to Lin Hao. "Junior brother, this is the Heaven Soul Crystal metal plate of the 9 Tribulations secret code. There are 5 pieces in total, and this is the first one. After junior brother selects someone with a strong willpower from the origin star lineage, you can hand it to him to cultivate." Pudi continued, "The 9 Tribulations secret code is extremely heaven-defying. It can only be passed on to others through the Heaven Soul Crystal, and it can only be passed on to one person. Only when this person dies can the Heaven Soul Crystal be passed on to someone else again." Afterwards, Pudi handed the token of the Star Tower Guide to Lin Hao. This was a token, upon which was the exclusive control imprint of the Star Tower. Of course, because he had not made the Star Tower acknowledge him as master, the guide holding the token could only simply control the Star Tower. At most, he could control the Forbidden Land guards and the simple operation of the Star Tower. Even the sealed stars could only be controlled by less than 100. Lin Hao glanced at it and then put it away. Simply put, it was of little use. Lin Hao only needed to take some time to visit the Star Tower. He had many things to do and still needed to cultivate himself, so he was not as leisurely as Pudi. Anyway, this thing called the Star Tower couldn't be moved at all, and there was no need to worry about others making it acknowledge them as master. At this point, Lin Hao's business on Luo Feng's side also came to an end. Overall, he made a huge profit. He gained 3 extremely high-value treasures. Luo Feng never taught his disciples hand in hand when taking them in. Generally, he only gave tasks or treasures. Probably in Luo Feng's eyes, Lin Hao was just a tool person to cultivate a candidate from the origin star lineage who could make the Star Tower acknowledge them as master. Therefore, he didn't give Lin Hao any tasks, only saying to him when Lin Hao left, "I still have quite a few treasures here. If you need them, you can bring treasures of equivalent value to exchange for them." And for Lin Hao at present, this was enough. Lin Hao and Pudi stepped on the Golden Bridge again to leave this place. Amidst the spatial transition, the two returned to that patch of the universe's void. Pudi cupped his hands and said, "Junior brother, let us part ways here. Aside from contacting teacher, the communication token refined by teacher can also contact me. If you have any matters in the future, you can communicate with me." Lin Hao nodded and said, "All right, senior brother, please." Hooty nodded slightly, and then teleported away from here. Lin Hao immediately had his soul slave open the God Kingdom passage and entered it. After a moment, Lin Hao returned to the Virtual Universe Company headquarters. Now that Lin Hao was one of the upper echelons of the Virtual Universe Corporation, he naturally possessed a tall and grand palace at the headquarters. Not far away were the palaces of upper echelons like the Primordial Chaos City Lord and Ice Peak Lord. However, the Primordial Chaos City Lord was stationed in Primordial Chaos City all year round, and people like the Lord of Dragon Walk were also stationed in other places. Only Ice Peak Lord currently resided here. Lin Hao returned to his own palace. Inside the tall, spacious palace, it was completely empty. He disliked others serving him, so there were no servants, maids, or similar personnel inside the entire Lord Haoshan Palace. Lin Hao took out the 3 treasures. Next is secluded cultivation. Increasing strength is of the utmost importance. There was no need to rush to explore the treasure land of the Elder God cult. There was plenty of time in the future. Just these 3 treasures obtained from teacher Zuo Shank were enough for Lin Hao to master for a period of time. Besides this, he also needed to seize the time to create secret methods. He also had to head to the Primordial Chaos City Lord's mansion to exchange for treasures that raise the genetic level. A Universe Lord's strength is mainly composed of 3 parts: the genetic level, the secret method level, and the treasure level. Every part was very important, and different degrees ultimately determined the level of strength. The strength of a Universe Lord was generally divided into 6 levels. They were respectively from the 1st tier to the 6th tier. The 1st and 2nd tiers were basically newly advanced Universe Lords. Universe Lords at this stage basically spent their time in cultivation. Their genetic level was below 1,000 times, their secret method level was generally ultimate secret methods and below, and most of their treasures were ordinary treasures, with a few having high-tier treasures. Overall, Universe Lords at this tier rarely showed their faces and were relatively low-key. After all, their strength was insufficient. The 3 constituent parts of a 3rd-tier Universe Lord's strength were slightly stronger than those of 1st and 2nd-tier Universe Lords, occasionally having one part that was relatively prominent. For example, the Monster Race's Lord of Tinlong, his genetic level and secret method level were both very ordinary, but he possessed a supreme high-tier treasure, the Tinlong Palace. Take Emperor Yan of the Yanshan clan for another example. His secret method level was extremely poor, but his genetic level and treasures were both very strong. He also belonged to a relatively formidable existence among 3rd-tier Universe Lords. Emperor Yan belonged to the type whose genetic level and treasure level were extremely prominent, but whose secret method level was poor, with his comprehensive strength reaching the 3rd tier. When reaching the level of a 4th-tier Universe Lord, the 3 constituent parts of strength had no obvious shortcomings. The genetic level reached several thousand times to close to 10,000 times. The secret method was a Universe Lord's strongest secret method, and there were several top-tier treasures in hand. Ice Peak Lord was in this tier, and all constituent parts of his strength were very balanced. He was also an existence akin to a pillar in various peak races. And a 5th-tier Universe Lord went a step further on the basis of the 4th tier, with the genetic level almost reaching 10,081 times, the secret method being a Universe Lord's strongest fusion secret method, and having peak treasures in hand. The human race's Primordial Chaos City Lord and Lord Peng Gong were at this tier, and in the Primordial Universe, they could contend against true god powerhouses. 6th-tier Universe Lords were different from those below the 5th tier. This tier almost only looked at treasures. As long as one had supreme treasures in hand, and could display their might, they could be called a 6th-tier Universe Lord. Judging from Lin Hao's current strength, possessing soul attack type ultimate secret methods, several peak treasures, and his human original body's 100 times genetic level, he could be called an outstanding figure among 3rd-tier Universe Lords. If calculated with the divine power of the Eternal Continent clone's 4,000 times genetic level, he could be called a 4th-tier Universe Lord. And if one added the Eternal Continent clone's massive body with a diameter of 12 light-years, calling him a 5th-tier Universe Lord would not be an exaggeration at all. Even if Lin Hao didn't need any other treasures, based solely on the Eternal Continent clone's body size, it was enough to be called a 5th-tier Universe Lord. Even if a true god came, seeing the eternal continent clone would give them a headache. Chapter 160, Re-entering the Primal Universe. Lin Hao being able to have this level of combat strength was mainly thanks to those 3 supreme treasures from Zuo Shank. Moreover, Lin Hao's strength still had massive room for improvement. Currently, the supreme treasures could be considered to have temporarily reached their limit, with almost no room for improvement. However, the life gene level and secret method level still had huge room for improvement. Currently, the human true self's life gene level was only 100 times. Such a gene level was fine at the Universe Exalt level and below, but at the Universe Lord realm, it was far from enough. After reaching the Universe Lord realm, the restriction of the primordial universe on the gene level was lifted, allowing one to break through the gene limit of ordinary life by 100 times. The difficulty of improving the life gene level between 100 times and 5,000 times was not very high, and it would be very easy for Lin Hao to improve it with his current supreme treasure points. After 5,000 times, it became much more difficult. The magnitude of improvement brought by various treasures would become smaller and smaller. When approaching 10,000 times, the difficulty of improvement further increased. By then, the difficulty of increasing by 1-fold would even be greater than that from 100 times to 5,000 times. From this, it could be seen just how heaven-defying the 9 tribulations secret code created by Zuo Shank was. It directly increased the multiplier. After finishing the cultivation of the 9th tribulation, the gene level multiplier would increase by 768 times. Although the 9 tribulations secret code also had the situation where the difficulty increased when approaching the limit, with only a few hundred times of the foundational gene level, one could relatively easily reach the level of 10,081 times perfect genes. If the vast number of universe lords were to find out about this, they would probably go crazy with anger. The difficulty of improving the gene level between the two was completely incomparable. Lin Hao currently had no clue on how to upgrade to the perfect gene level. However, using the treasures in the human race's treasury to elevate the human true self's gene level to several thousand times was still not a problem. Besides the gene level, the secret methods also had huge room for improvement. Currently, he only had 1 peak soul attack type Universe Lord secret method and 1 ordinary attack type Universe Lord secret method. Such a secret method level was not high among Universe Lords, and it was even inferior to the secret methods of some Tier 2 Universe Lords. However, these 2 secret methods were created by him when he was at the Immortal level. With his comprehension ability and attainments on the secret pattern graph, he was still able to create such secret methods back at the Immortal level. Now that his realm had reached the Universe Lord, he could naturally create even more powerful secret methods. As Lin Hao's gene level and secret method level improved, I am afraid that purely with the strength of his human true self, he could reach a Tier 5 Universe Lord. By then, it would truly be a time where he could run amok in the primordial universe. At that time, he would go to the Yanshan secret region to demand supreme treasures from Emperor Yan, and by the way, capture a few million prisoners from the Yanshan clan back to study them. Lin Hao sent a message to the primordial Chaos City Lord in the virtual universe. Senior Marshal Uncle, I want to exchange for treasures that enhance the gene level in the race's treasury. The primordial Chaos City Lord quickly replied, no problem, as long as you have enough supreme treasure points, you can exchange for whatever you want. Lin Hao did not dawdle and immediately headed to the Primal Universe Passage. If ordinary people wanted to enter the Primal Universe Passage, they needed to wait for a period of time until enough people gathered before they could enter. This was mainly to improve the efficiency of passage. But when Lin Hao entered the Primal Universe, he did not need to be so troublesome, he could just directly open the passage and enter it. The staff didn't even know the reason why the passage was opened. They only knew that there was an order from above to open the passage. Lin Hao teleported outside the Primal Universe Passage, and his consciousness sensed the situation inside the hall next to the passage. 70 or 80 universe-rank humans were waiting to enter the Primal Universe. In a flash, Lin Hao understood. These were personnel who entered the core layer through the internal assessment of the Virtual Universe Corporation. More than 30,000 years ago, Lin Hao entered the core layer in this exact way. Lin Hao couldn't help but sigh with emotion. More than 30,000 years have passed. I have also grown from a planetary level to the Universe Lord realm. Although 30,000 years was a long time, to the powerhouses in the universe, it was only a brief period of time. Once the realm reached the universe rank, one would possess a lifespan of 100,000 years. For the universe rank, 30,000 years was less than one-third of their lifespan. For even more powerful existences, 30,000 years was even more insignificant. Lin Hao entered the primal universe through the passage. Then he teleported to Primordial Chaos City. He didn't teleport directly into the City Lord's mansion, but instead planned to stroll around Primordial Chaos City first. Before long, he walked to the foot of two small buildings. The people living in the two small buildings were very familiar to Lin Hao. They were Lin Yichen and Feng Juxiao respectively. Among his numerous descendants, the talent of these two was definitely the top-notch. Among them, Feng Juxiao's talent was even more astonishing, possessing even the potential to become a universe lord. Although Lin Yichen's talent was inferior to Feng Juxiao's, it was still enough to support him in becoming a universe exalt. Such talent was rarely seen in countless genius contests and strongest battles. This time when Lin Hao came over, he concealed his figure and aura, so neither of them discovered him. Lin Hao did not disturb them either, turning around and walking towards other places. The last time Lin Hao left Primordial Chaos City was 20,000 years ago. 20,000 years had passed, and Primordial Chaos City had hardly changed. Even some people's cultivation postures on the rooftop had not changed. Before long, Lin Hao walked to his own former residence back then. However, to his surprise, this place had actually become a public area where many people cultivated. There were also quite a few people exchanging insights. This is the former residence of the great Lord Haoshan back then. It's truly extraordinary. Comprehending the law here, I feel it's much faster. Of course. This is the residence of the top-notch genius of our human race. How could it not have anything special about it? It's a pity that such a precious land cannot be enjoyed exclusively. It's truly a regret. HMPH. You were daydreaming. Although the news of Lord Haoshan achieving the Universe Lord has not yet spread on a large scale, quite a few people in Primordial Chaos City already know about it. If this place hadn't been turned into a public area, I'm afraid it would have been occupied by someone long ago. Lin Hao listened to a few sentences casually and then paid no more attention. Precious land. HMPH. What I, Lin Hao, rely on to become stronger is not some precious land, but the accumulation of my own countless descendants. Lin Hao walked into the City Lord's mansion. Because Lin Hao concealed his figure and aura, the guards at the door did not discover him. Since he had already contacted the Primordial Chaos City Lord before coming, there was no need to go into the inner mansion of the City Lord to say hello. Just as Lin Hao was heading towards that side hall, suddenly, he looked towards the direction where the Chaos Steel was located. He remembered a matter: Kandri's astonishing number of clones. Although he currently had an Eternal Continent clone, the Eternal Continent clone was too big and could not move at all. The only one who could move was Lin Hao's human true self, which made it very inconvenient for him at many times. For example, regarding the matter before where Zuo Sheng asked him to guard the Star Tower, he could not guard the Star Tower for a long time and could only go there occasionally. He desperately wanted to have a few more clones. With his current status, he had the authority to know many secrets within the human race. Lin Hao quickly searched for relevant information. Kandri was a high-tier universe exalt, and his strength was not prominent, except that he had a special secret method which, when cast, could split out a large number of clones. This special secret method could be considered Kandri's innate secret method, and others could not learn it. Under normal circumstances, that was indeed the case, but Lin Hao was different. No matter how difficult a secret method was to learn, there was a way to learn it in front of Lin Hao. First, his comprehension ability was extremely high. Second, he mastered the legacy of the secret pattern graph school. No matter what kind of secret method it was, especially high-level secret methods, almost all of them could be parsed in the manner of a secret pattern graph. Thinking of this, Lin Hao changed direction and walked towards the Hall of the Chaos Steel. Chapter 161 Exchanging Treasures to Enhance Genetic Rank. In the corridor of the Chaos Steel, in front of the 52 Chaos Steel cultivation chambers, there was a clone of Kandri. With Lin Hao's current discernment, he could see at a glance that these 52 Kandri clones in front of him, though called clones, were actually his true body. These clones were not manufactured by him, but were split from his true body. Such clones possessed a certain degree of independence, yet it was lower than that of true clones. They had a certain similarity to divine power incarnations, but their combat power was stronger than divine power incarnations. Divine power incarnations had almost no combat ability, whereas Kandri's clones possessed 60% of his true body's strength. Such clone methods were extremely useful for exploration and reconnaissance. Lin Hao walked up to a Kandri clone and revealed his figure. "Hello, Kandri." Kandri's expression paused slightly, and after seeing Lin Hao's appearance clearly, he hurriedly said respectfully, "Greetings, Lord Haoshan." Kandri's other clones also bowed toward Lin Hao one after another. Lin Hao smiled and said, "No need for formalities. I am looking for you for a small matter, let us speak aside." Kandri hurriedly said, "Yes." Afterwards, this Kandri clone followed Lin Hao and left. Meanwhile, one of the other 51 Kandri clones executed the clone secret technique, splitting into 2 Kandris. One of them walked over and stood still in front of the Chaos Steel cultivation chamber that had just been left vacant. Lin Hao and Kandri arrived in a side hall. Lin Hao said, "Kandri, I wish to learn your clone secret technique, would that be possible?" Clone secret technique. Kandri was slightly stunned. The human race had previously wanted others to learn his clone secret technique as well. Kandri himself could only use it, but was unable to impart it to others. In the end, no one was able to learn the clone secret technique, and this matter eventually fizzled out. Kandri pondered for a moment and said, "Lord Haoshan, I am willing to hand the clone secret technique over to you, but my clone secret technique is an innate secret technique, and others cannot learn it." Lin Hao said, "You do not need to worry about this. You only need to tell me the key points of the clone secret technique and demonstrate it in front of me once. If I fail to learn it, I will not blame you." Hearing this, Kandri had no more misgivings and directly imparted the clone secret technique to Lin Hao. The secret patterns of this clone secret technique were extremely complex, and it took Lin Hao 1 hour to memorize them. Merely remembering the secret patterns of the clone secret technique was far from enough, it also required analysis and deduction using the secret pattern graph, which was not something that could be completed in a short time. Afterwards, right in front of Lin Hao, Kandri once again executed the clone secret technique. Only to see the divine power of the Kandri before him fluctuate for a while, ultimately splitting into 2 halves. Each half of the divine power recondensed into a Kandri. Lin Hao observed carefully for a moment and found that the 2 Kandris were identical, unable to be distinguished from one another. Of course, because of the halving of divine power, the strength of both Kandris was weakened quite a bit. Kandri introduced, "Lord Haoshan, this is my clone secret technique. It can equally split the divine power within the body into several parts, and then each part can condense into a clone. However, such a clone has great limitations and is not as independently strong as a true clone." Kandri said a lot, and Lin Hao remembered them one by one. Afterwards, Lin Hao transferred 1 treasure point to Kandri as remuneration. Kandri was shocked. "Lord Haoshan. This is too precious." Lin Hao said, "Accept it. This is my tuition fee. In the future, I might need you to demonstrate and explain it multiple times, so I will have to trouble you." Kandri hurriedly said, "Being able to serve Lord Haoshan is my honor." After bidding farewell to Kandri, Lin Hao arrived at this side hall of the human race treasury. As the bronze gates rumbled shut, a light screen interface appeared in front of Lin Hao. Various treasure information was listed upon it. Due to Lin Hao's extremely high status currently, his permission level was already the highest rank, therefore, all treasures in the human race treasury could be inspected. When he came last time at World Lord rank, he was unable to see top-tier supreme treasures. This time, he could see all of them. Just as Lin Hao expected, the number of supreme treasures above the top-tier level in the treasury was not large. There was only one piece of armor among the peak supreme treasures, and its price was as high as 1,500 treasure points. There was not a single other peak supreme treasure of the flying palace type or domain type. Although the high-rank supreme treasures in the treasury looked quite shabby, this was also normal. After all, the human race had so many universe lords. Naturally, any good things had to be digested as soon as possible to turn them into solid combat power. If they were just left in the treasury to gather dust, that would truly be a waste. Lin Hao took 2 glances and stopped looking at the supreme treasures. Just the few supreme treasures in the human race treasury were not even as valuable as the supreme treasures on his own body. It could even be said that the value of the supreme treasures on him was probably higher than those on Great Axe Founder. The Linglong Pagoda and Cloud Realm, these 2 peak supreme treasures, were respectively a flying palace type and a domain type, both being supreme treasures of extremely high value. Afterwards, Lin Hao opened the special resources category. This was also the purpose of his coming here. Nether spirit fruit, blood spirit, flower, various precious treasures that enhanced genetic rank were listed upon it. Compared to the shabby supreme treasure list, the special resources category was much richer. Lin Hao had done his homework before coming and quickly locked onto the treasures he needed. His current 211 treasure points were somewhat not enough. Afterwards, Lin Hao placed the Nebula Palace onto the stone platform. Soon, that voice sounded, "Nebula Palace, sacrificing it to the race can grant 73 treasure points." Back then when Lin Hao exchanged for the Nebula Palace, it cost 75 treasure points. Now, sacrificing it to the race only yielded 73 treasure points. The difference of 2 treasure points was considered a contribution to the human race. There was a certain price difference between the recovery and exchange prices of all supreme treasures. The fee rate was around 2.6%. After all, maintaining the development of the entire human race required a massive amount of resources. For the human race, the truly precious resources were treasure points. The extra portion of fees generated every time top-tier powerhouses exchanged for supreme treasures was a huge accumulation of resources. Lin Hao exchanged all 284 treasure points for treasures that enhanced genetic rank. The stone platform delivered all the treasures in front of Lin Hao. Lin Hao waved his hand and stored them into the world ring. Lin Hao glanced at his remaining treasure points balance, 0.4 treasure points. It could be said to be completely cleaned out. Lin Hao thought to himself, should I earn some extra money? Who would think they have too much money? Judging by the treasures he exchanged for that enhanced genetic rank, they could probably raise his human true body's genetic rank to around 3,000 times. There was still some distance away from 5,000 times, and it was still in a stage where it could be rapidly enhanced. However, Lin Hao did not plan to go out and venture outside for the next 20,000 years. Instead, he prepared to seclude himself to cultivate. Earn extra money. I have an idea. Lin Hao's eyes lit up, and he thought of a way to earn treasure points. That was the resurrection business. Powerhouses above the Universe Lord level could control time and space, and therefore could achieve the resurrection of others. But resurrecting others was not without a cost. Pulling others back from past time and space required the Universe Lord to bear the resulting time and space backlash. And the price borne was the consumption of divine power. But Lin Hao did not have much else, except that he had plenty of divine power. Furthermore, it was that kind of unimaginable, nearly endless amount. Lin Hao's consciousness entered the virtual universe and found Ice Peak Lord. Teacher, I want to undertake the resurrection business for the entire human race. Chapter 162, I'll take care of all the resurrection business of the human race. Hearing his best disciple say this, Ice Peak Lord was silent for a moment. Aren't you supposed to be cultivating in seclusion? How do you have time to take on this kind of business? Lin Hao said, I simply couldn't bear to see the geniuses of our race fall, so I stepped in to help resurrect them. Ice Peak Lord said speechlessly, are you still not telling me the truth? Lin Hao chuckled, I lack supreme treasure points. Ice Peak Lord helplessly said, if you lack supreme treasure points, I can just support you with some. Why go to such lengths? Although the divine power consumed in resurrecting others is not that significant to your massive divine body, it will still delay your progress in converting the divine power of a Universe Lord. The losses outweigh the gains. When you just became a Universe Lord earlier, other Universe Lords proposed that you resurrect the fallen King-level Immortals, but your senior martial uncle Primordial Chaos City Lord refused. You are currently in a period of rapid growth in strength, and there is no need to waste divine power like this. Facing his teacher's affectionate care, Lin Hao was deeply moved, but he still said, Teacher, please rest assured. This disciple knows what he is doing. Even if I resurrect thousands of king-level immortals every day, the divine power consumed is far less than the divine power I convert. Seeing Lin Hao so persistent, Ice Peak Lord did not say much more. All right, just judge the scale yourself. I will inform the other Universe Lords of your decision right now. Lin Hao nodded and said, all right. Resurrecting others would have their expenses advanced by the race, and then the resurrected person could slowly repay the race's debt after resurrection. Lord of Ganwu was a case in point. However, the current Lord of Ganwu seemed to still be in a dead state and had not yet been resurrected. Because Yuan Star was located in Ganwu Universe Country, Lin Hao naturally paid a bit more attention to Lord of Ganwu. It seemed that not long ago, the human race had just confirmed that Lord of Ganwu had fallen in a certain secret realm. Since his realm was that of a Universe Exalt, he was ranked near the front of the resurrection list. Correspondingly, his resurrection fee was also in the highest tier, amounting to as much as 1.1 supreme treasure points. Don't think these supreme treasure points are few, just consider that Venerable Linyuan needed to serve as the country lord of Linyuan Universe Country for 500,000 eras just for 0.3 supreme treasure points. Even at this price, it was because Linyuan Universe Country was newly established and required a powerful country lord to garrison it. Venerable Linyuan had defeated quite a few opponents just to snatch this good gig. Under normal circumstances, even serving as a Universe Country Lord for 5 billion eras would not yield many supreme treasure points. Only when top geniuses emerged within the Universe Country would the race grant some rewards, yet such rewards would not be too substantial. This shows just how exorbitant the resurrection fee for a Universe Exalt was. When Ice Peak Lord informed the other Universe Lords of Lin Hao's decision, quite a few people began to contact Lin Hao. Every Universe Lord had subordinates who had fallen, or subordinates of subordinates. Of course, they could also resurrect them on their own, but at the level of a Universe Lord, replenishing divine power was extremely difficult, so they would not casually waste divine power like this. Only after submitting the resurrection list to the race would the race arrange for one or several Universe Lords to perform resurrections every once in a while. At that time, the entire human race would enter a state of combat readiness that appeared relaxed on the outside but was tense on the inside. Because for a period of time after a Universe Lord suffered divine power consumption, their strength would inevitably decline, and they might even end up severely injured. This period was precisely when the human race faced its greatest crisis. Now that Lin Hao had taken the initiative to undertake the resurrection business, it undoubtedly made many Universe Lords breathe a sigh of relief. The vast majority of Universe Lords began contacting Lin Hao, hoping to move their subordinate experts up a bit in the ranking of the resurrection list. Aside from that, Primordial Chaos City Lord even paid a special visit to Lin Hao's palace in the virtual universe. Seeing Primordial Chaos City Lord arrive, Lin Hao hurriedly stood up to greet him. Senior Martial Uncle, why have you come? Primordial Chaos City Lord smiled and said, I heard from your teacher that you intend to undertake the resurrection business. So I came over to take a look. Lin Hao nodded and said, yes, that is what I had in mind. Primordial Chaos City Lord asked, I know your Eternal Continent clone has a massive physique, but will resurrecting others truly not affect your divine power conversion? Lin Hao smiled and said, generally speaking, it won't affect it. Even if there is an impact, bearing it myself is much better than having other Universe Lords bear it, and I recover a bit faster. Primordial Chaos City Lord nodded slightly. All right, since that is the case, it is settled. I will arrange for someone to compile the resurrection list and hand it to you as soon as possible. You only need to carry out resurrections at your own pace and don't need to rush too much. Lin Hao nodded. All right, I understand. 3 days later, a resurrection list was delivered into Lin Hao's hands. This list contained as many as several thousand people, and every single one of them was an expert above the king-level immortal tier. The vast majority were experts who had fallen within the past nearly 10 billion years. A small portion were existences from even further back in time. Because those people were weaker in strength, their rankings on the resurrection list were further down. Unknowingly, they had been queued for countless years without ever getting their turn. These king-level immortals were still considered fortunate, at least they had hope of being resurrected. Those marquee immortals and immortal-level beings below them didn't even qualify for resurrection. It was impossible for a universe lord to waste their own divine power to resurrect marquee immortals. That would be a massive waste of resources. Unsurprisingly, the person ranked first on this list was Lord of Ganwu. Lord of Ganwu was a very ancient universe exalt who had already existed during the era when Origin Ancestor was active. Countless years had passed, and although he was still at the Universe Exalt realm, his strength could not be underestimated. However, because he had already fallen once before, he didn't have many treasures on him. Although his secret techniques were quite decent, his strength was only at the level of an advanced Universe Exalt. However, in light of his contributions to the human race, Primordial Chaos City Lord still placed him at the very top of the resurrection list. Behind every name on the resurrection list was an address, which was a place the resurrected individual had visited during their lifetime. Lin Hao needed to travel to these locations to resurrect them. However, Lin Hao didn't need to spend too much time traveling. The human race had already made proper arrangements, assigning dedicated personnel to transport Lin Hao. 1 month later, Lin Hao had exhausted all the precious treasures meant for raising his gene level. Lin Hao's gene level had already reached 3,300 times by this point. His divine power intensity had increased by more than 30-fold compared to before. At this point, Lin Hao decided to end his seclusion and begin handling the resurrection business. Lin Hao stepped out of his palace within the virtual universe headquarters. A pretty young woman greeted him. Respected Lord Haoshan, I am Cheng Ying, honored with the title of Blood Blade King. I will lead the way for the upcoming resurrection tasks. Lin Hao nodded and asked, are your ancestors from Mountain and Sea Realm? Cheng Ying replied, yes, my ancestors once lived in Mountain and Sea Realm, and later left because Mountain and Sea Realm was destroyed. Lin Hao thought to himself that as expected, this person must have been specially arranged by Virtual Universe Corporation. Knowing that his ancestors were from Mountain and Sea Realm, they arranged for a descendant of Mountain and Sea Realm to guide the way, and a beauty at that. Although Lin Hao was not a lustful man, he didn't mind appreciating a beauty either. If two people appeared before you, one being an old geezer and the other a beauty, and you had to choose one to spend some time with, which would you pick? Lin Hao currently didn't have the mind to get to know Cheng Ying deeply, and said directly, all right, let's go. Lin Hao brought Cheng Ying along and teleported into the sparsely populated Void Realm. Afterwards, Cheng Ying performed a God Kingdom teleportation. A moment later, the two arrived at their first destination, the capital star of Ganwu Universe Country. Chapter 163, Resurrecting Lord of Ganwu. The capital star of the Ganwu Universe Country was extremely bustling, with countless spaceships taking off and landing at the spaceport every single second. Although the Lord of Ganwu had already fallen, because of the short amount of time that had passed, the people of the Ganwu Universe Country did not know about this matter yet. This piece of information was only known to the higher-ups of the human race. Every Universe Exalt was a core pillar of the race. As long as they hadn't been soul-enslaved by others, arrangements for their resurrection would generally be made as soon as possible. Lin Hao and Cheng Ying stood several million kilometers outside the capital star of the Ganwu Universe Country. Cheng Ying said, according to the data, the Lord of Ganwu set off from here before heading to the Secret Realm, about 52 years ago. Lin Hao nodded and gave a wave of his large hand. A miraculous scene immediately appeared before their eyes. Time was flowing backward. The scenes of the capital star's past emerged one by one, continuously rewinding into the past. Soon, Lin Hao caught sight of the figure of the Lord of Ganwu from 52 years ago. This was precisely the footage of him before heading to the secret realm. He was giving instructions to the chief executive. Lin Hao used his divine power to freeze the figure of the Lord of Ganwu, then released his control over spacetime retroversion. In an instant, spacetime was like a compressed spring, rapidly rebounding back to the present. Under the control of Lin Hao's divine power, the figure of the Lord of Ganwu was returning from the past to the present. Amidst this, countless spacetime backlashes struck, ultimately landing upon Lin Hao's divine power. A moment later, the figure of the Lord of Ganwu returned to the present. He had been resurrected. Lin Hao sensed his divine power consumption, finding that less than 1/10,000th of his divine power had been consumed. At that, he immediately set his mind at ease. My previous estimate was wrong. With the divine power reserves of my human body, I can completely resurrect all several thousand people on the resurrection list. Presently, the size of Lin Hao's human body was also extremely massive, coupled with his life gene level increasing to 3,300 times. The divine power consumed for the resurrection was far less than Lin Hao had imagined. On the other side, the Lord of Ganwu wore a dazed expression. He still remembered everything he had encountered in the secret realm previously. Did I die? And then I was resurrected again. This was already the second time the Lord of Ganwu had been resurrected. He had spent endless years slowly paying off the racial debts from his first resurrection. He hadn't expected that not long after paying off his debts, he would die once more. Could it be that this time's debts would also take endless years to repay? The Lord of Ganwu felt incomparably bitter inside. However, despite the bitterness in his heart, he hurriedly and respectfully expressed his gratitude to Lin Hao on the surface. Many thanks to the great Universe Lord for the grace of resurrection. Lin Hao nodded slightly. You are too polite, Lord of Ganwu. The Lord of Ganwu secretly sized up Lin Hao, muttering in his heart, who is this? He looks a bit familiar. But I can't remember who it is. Could it be that after my death this time, a very long time passed before I was resurrected? The Lord of Ganwu was a very ancient universe exalt, and quite a few universe lords were his juniors. Therefore, aside from the Darkness Lord whom he might not recognize, he knew all the other universe lords. Now that he had been resurrected, he actually didn't recognize the other party. Then there was only one possibility. This was yet another new universe lord. The Lord of Ganwu respectfully asked, May I ask if you can inform this humble one of your esteemed name? Lin Hao said, My name is Lin Hao. We even met in the virtual universe before. The Lord of Ganwu suddenly came to a realization. Of course he knew of the little disciple of the Ice Peak Lord, and he had even met him once in the virtual universe. However, that had only been a glance from afar. The Lord of Ganwu smiled, So it is you. I have heard of your great name for a long time. Congratulations on achieving the status of Universe Lord. Lin Hao nodded slightly, Thank you. All right, Lord of Ganwu, I still need to resurrect others, so I won't disturb you any longer. The Lord of Ganwu hurriedly cupped his hands in farewell. Cheng Ying opened the God Country passage, and Lin Hao and Cheng Ying entered it. Watching the God Country passage close, the Lord of Ganwu felt a myriad of emotions in his heart. I wonder how long I died for this time. My human race has gained yet another universe lord. How wonderful. Subsequently, the Lord of Ganwu teleported to the capital star. At the same time, his consciousness entered the virtual universe to examine the events that had occurred during the period of his death. Upon finishing reading about the events of this period, the Lord of Ganwu was shocked. I only died for a mere 52 years. My human race actually gained an additional universe lord. This is simply too fast. How old is Lord Haoshan this year? Just how high is his talent? Inescapably, the Lord of Ganwu recalled that person from endless years ago whose talent was equally heaven-defying. Yuan. The Lord of Ganwu sighed deeply, Wonderful. My human race has risen with yet another peerless genius. After the joy subsided, the Lord of Ganwu inevitably thought of himself. He had once been a genius as well, but unfortunately, after comprehending the space origin law to achieve the status of Universe Exalt, his progress on the time origin law had been extremely slow. So many years had passed, yet he was still at the Universe Exalt realm. Sigh. Forget it, I won't think about those things anymore. I'd better think about how to repay the race's debts. 1.1 true treasure points, that truly is a massive amount. The Lord of Ganwu couldn't help feeling somewhat regretful. Why on earth had he failed to think things through and gone to the secret realm to treasure hunt? With not even a shred of treasures on his body, of course he would fall once he encountered some danger. The Lord of Ganwu thought to himself, next time, I must borrow some treasures before going treasure hunting. Only then will there be a guarantee. In that resurrection list, only 3 people were at the Universe Exalt realm, while the rest were all king-level immortals. To Lin Hao, the resurrection reward for a Universe Exalt was 1 true treasure point, and for a king-level immortal, it was 0.01 true treasure points. The 3 Universe Exalts could bring him 3 true treasure points, and the remaining 6,000 king-level immortals could bring 60 true treasure points. And Lin Hao's cost was merely less than 1% of his human body's divine power. To Lin Hao, such a cost naturally didn't amount to anything. However, if this portion of divine power were to be borne by other human universe lords, it would be a different story. Some universe lords wouldn't even have enough if they contributed all of their bodily divine power. The reason was naturally because the human body of Lin Hao was immensely huge. The size of the human body wasn't worth mentioning in front of the Eternal Continent clone, but compared to other universe lords, it was a colossal behemoth. With a height of a full 50 kilometers, it was comparable to the universe lords of the monster race. The most crucial thing was that Lin Hao's innate secret technique, infinite growth, was still effective on his human body. The size of the human body could still continue to grow. Moreover, Lin Hao felt that as his life gene level increased to 3,300 times, for quite a long time to come, the annual increase of infinite growth would become even greater. Reaching a size of tens of thousands of kilometers was not a dream. Even with the life gene level continuing to rise, an even greater size was not impossible. It took Lin Hao only 3 days to resurrect everyone on the resurrection list. He also received the race's reward, 63 true treasure points. Without stopping to rest, Lin Hao once again entered the Primal Universe and exchanged for some treasures that could elevate his gene level. Chapter 164, Beginning to Perfect the Secret Method. Lin Hao's resurrection efficiency startled all the universe lords. Ice Peak Lord came to Lin Hao's palace in the virtual universe. He asked with concern, Lin Hao, are you really fine with your divine power reserves? You resurrected everyone in just 3 days. Lin Hao smiled and said, Master, I am fine, don't worry. However, I do want to ask, when will the Marquee Immortals also be included on the resurrection list? I haven't even warmed up yet. Ice Peak Lord said speechlessly, You brat, are you showing off? Lin Hao explained, Master also knows that my physique is relatively large. Just the physique of my human true self is comparable to a universe lord of the monster race. Furthermore, the strong of our human race generally do not have as large a physique as the monster race. Therefore, it is not strenuous for me to resurrect them. The backlash of space and time suffered from resurrecting others is related to the strength of the resurrected person. The more powerful the existence, the stronger the backlash of space and time. Although the universe lords of the monster race also have very large physiques, the resurrected individuals of the monster race are not small in physique either. Therefore, the backlash of space and time is much greater compared to human race powerhouses of the same level. At this time, Lin Hao, with a physique comparable to a universe lord of the monster race, resurrected humans whose physiques are much smaller than those of the monster race. Naturally, he could easily endure the backlash of space and time. Even so, Lin Hao still paid the price of half the divine power of his human true self this time. If it were replaced by a human race universe lord who also possesses a huge clone, although they could also endure this space and time backlash, the subsequent recovery of divine power would be very troublesome. Unlike Lin Hao, who only needs to replenish his divine power through the even larger Eternal Continent clone. Ice Peak Lord sighed with emotion. Lin Hao, you may not know, but for us, resurrecting others is actually a tiresome chore. Usually, it is us universe lords who take turns making a move. Now with you here, we are much more relaxed. Lin Hao said earnestly, Master, what I said earlier was serious. Have you considered including Marquis Immortals into the resurrection list as well? Anyway, they are weaker in strength, and resurrecting them consumes less. Ice Peak Lord shook his head and said, there is no need. Marquis Immortals are too weak in strength, and their talent is not high. King-level Immortals still have a chance to become a Universe Exalt, but it is difficult for Marquis Immortals. Resurrecting them has little significance. Hearing this, Lin Hao fell silent. He was indeed quite short of supreme treasure points. At the very least, he needed to raise the life gene level of his human true self to 5,000 times to be considered up to standard. Ice Peak Lord asked, Lin Hao, how many supreme treasure points are you still lacking? Lin Hao said, Master, why are you asking this? Ice Peak Lord smiled and said, it's nothing. I still have some supreme treasure points, and they are temporarily useless with me. How about I give them to you? Being able to enhance your strength somewhat can also be considered making the best use of everything. Lin Hao was somewhat tempted, but also somewhat hesitant. Thank you for your kindness, Master. However, supreme treasure points do not come easily, and Ice Peak Lord interrupted, there is nothing hard to come by. Just accept them. At my level, supreme treasure points are not of much use anymore. You have also seen the situation of the clan's treasury, there are simply no supreme treasures that can enhance my strength. Therefore, these supreme treasure points are useless to me. Seeing Ice Peak Lord say this, Lin Hao did not dawdle anymore and said, Master, let this be considered a loan from you. I will definitely return them to you in the future. Ice Peak Lord smiled and said, all right, let's consider it lent to you. Afterwards, Ice Peak Lord transferred 1,000 supreme treasure points to Lin Hao. Lin Hao was shocked, Master, why is it so much? Ice Peak Lord explained, this is the accumulation of my countless years. However, for so many years, there hasn't been a supreme treasure in the treasury that caught my eye, so they naturally piled up. Lin Hao asked curiously, Master, what kind of supreme treasure do you need? Ice Peak Lord said, of course it's a flying palace type supreme treasure. A top-tier supreme treasure is enough. Unfortunately, there isn't one in the treasury. Lin Hao secretly remembered this matter. Ice Peak Lord has a ceiling-type peak supreme treasure, the Ice Mountain Palace, which is not a flying palace type supreme treasure. With Ice Peak Lord's supreme treasure points, Lin Hao began a massive shopping spree. He used all the supreme treasure points to purchase treasures that enhance the gene level. Then he returned to his own palace at the Virtual Universe Company headquarters in the Primordial Universe. He went into seclusion to use these treasures. Half a year later, Lin Hao finally finished consuming these treasures. At this time, the gene level of his human true self had already reached 6,000 times. After the gene level exceeded 5,000 times, the effects of various treasures began to weaken. The further along it went, the worse the effect of such treasures became. When approaching 10,000 times, the effect of the treasures was negligible. At this point, Lin Hao temporarily ended the enhancement of his gene level. Next, it is time to comprehend the law and create my own secret method. Lin Hao's consciousness entered the virtual universe. He softly called out, Grandmaster. The next second, the scene in front of him changed, and he appeared in a gray-hazed space. Countless chaos. Chi currents circulated around. Standing in front of him was a man dressed in a white robe, who was precisely Origin Ancestor. Origin Ancestor asked, have all the matters in reality been dealt with? Lin Hao nodded and said, they have been dealt with. Next, I will have to trouble you, Grandmaster. Origin Ancestor smiled and said, it's no trouble. I haven't communicated with anyone for so many years, so this is just right to relieve the boredom. Afterwards, Origin Ancestor said, first, display your comprehension of various laws. Hearing this, Lin Hao nodded, starting his display from the space and time origin laws. Then came the 8 fusion laws such as gold space, water space, etc. Then afterwards, Lin Hao displayed the gold-water space fusion law that he had comprehended. After the display was completed, Origin Ancestor nodded slightly, not bad, the comprehension of various laws is very good. Without any accidents, you can become a universe strongest within 1,000,000 years. Become a universe strongest within 1,000,000 years. Lin Hao naturally didn't want to become a true god so quickly. He was still thinking about walking the divine power route. Moreover, becoming a true god cannot be rushed. At the very least, he had to wait until the Duandong legacy appeared before talking about it. The architecture of the mini-universes of the true gods within the current universe C is not perfect. It is best to wait for the Duandong legacy to appear, perfect the mini-universe architecture based on its materials, and then it won't be too late to break through and become a true god. Or find an opportunity to obtain the information from Zuo Shenk, which is also fine. Origin Ancestor continued. Next, I will rely on the virtual universe to tailor-make opponents for you, allowing you to temper your own secret method with this. Let's set a small goal. First create a Universe Lord Ultimate Secret Method. Hearing this, Lin Hao nodded and said, "Thank you, Grandmaster." Origin Ancestor waved his hand, and Lin Hao arrived in a new space. Soon, a figure holding a long spear appeared opposite Lin Hao. Lin Hao immediately attacked the other party with the Universe Lord Peak Secret Method Open Black Lens Bracket Extinction Close Black Lens Bracket. Seeing an attack that was close to nothingness burrowed into the opponent's body. The opponent immediately fell to the ground and died. The next second, the opponent resurrected on the spot. Not only that, but their strength also increased slightly. Lin Hao was not surprised either and continued to attack the opponent. At the same time, he began to comprehend the mysteries of the Open Black Lens Bracket Extinction Close Black Lens Bracket Secret Method, and recorded the insights of fighting using the secret method. When he had free time, Lin Hao started to work on perfecting the Open Black Lens Bracket Extinction Close Black Lens Bracket Secret Method. After all, this secret method was created back then using only a little over 10 years of time. Although it was very powerful and reached the level of a Universe Lord Peak Secret Method, there were still flaws, and it could continue to be perfected. Chapter 165 Reactions from All Sides. Meanwhile, the news that Lin Hao had become a Universe Lord was also spreading across the universe. Countless races and powerhouses were shocked by this. Previously, when the youthful ancestral god pointed out in the Elder God cult that Lin Hao had become a Universe Lord, many races naturally knew about this news. But at that time, Lin Hao concealed his identity, and alien powerhouses only knew that Lin Hao was the Golden Light King, but who exactly was the Golden Light King? No one knew, nor did they know how long the Golden Light King had cultivated before becoming a Universe Lord. Therefore, although the news that the Golden Light King had become a Universe Lord had spread, it did not cause any waves among the various races. Even the other few peak races did not care too much about it. After all, it was just one more Universe Lord, not an extra Universe Strongest for the human race. The impact among the various races was not large, and a newly promoted Universe Lord still had a long way to go to grow into a powerhouse above a Tier 3 Universe Lord. Therefore, although the various races paid attention to the Golden Light Lord, they did not care too much. But when the news that Lin Hao had become Lord Haoshan spread, almost all races in the primordial universe were in an uproar. It took only 30,000 years to become a Universe Lord. Such a growth speed was truly terrifying. Those powerhouses who had lived for endless years involuntarily thought of another rapidly rising super powerhouse of the human race, the Origin Ancestor. Back then, the Origin Ancestor was also like this, rising rapidly at an unimaginable speed, quickly becoming a Universe Lord, and then becoming a Universe Strongest in less than 10 million years. Soon after, the Origin Ancestor was considered a top powerhouse even among the Universe Strongests. Lin Hao's information was very unfamiliar to other peak races. They only knew that Lin Hao was a disciple of the human race's Ice Peak Lord, and became a member of the Virtual Universe Corporation's primitive mystical region by passing through the primitive Tongtian Mountain. That was all. On the assassination lists of various races, Lin Hao's ranking was not high, and he hadn't even entered the top 10. This was also the reason why Lin Hao had almost never encountered assassinations. The only assassination was the one planned by insect race Evelyn, which ultimately led to Evelyn being enslaved by Lin Hao. Moreover, the insect race seemed to have not yet discovered that Evelyn had been enslaved by Lin Hao. Because the prison race and crystal race did not border the human race, although they were shocked by Lin Hao becoming a universe lord, they didn't have much reaction. Anyway, they had no intersection with the human race, so it didn't matter at all. Unless Lin Hao became a universe strongest at an extremely short speed again, it would be difficult to threaten them. However, the other three peak races, the monster race, automaton race, and insect race, reacted intensely. Automaton race. Machine Father God, children, pay close attention to the news of Lord Haoshan, and report immediately if there is any movement. The automaton race universe lord quickly replied, yes, Father God. Insect race. The Zerg Queen also gave some instructions to the universe lords under her command. Monster race. The divine power incarnations of Dream Monster Ancestor and Gen Ancestor gathered together. Dream Monster Ancestor sighed, the growth speed of this Lord Haoshan is truly astonishing. 30,000 years, it took me tens of millions of years to become a universe lord back then. Gen Ancestor nodded, and said with a solemn expression, indeed. And, he reminds me of someone. Dream Monster Ancestor asked, are you talking about that madman Origin Ancestor? Gen Ancestor fell into memories and said, yes. Back then, the Origin Ancestor was also like this, seemingly taking a mere 20,000 years to become a universe lord. Dream Monster Ancestor was relatively young and had not experienced the era of the Origin Ancestor, but had heard of the Origin Ancestor. Dream Monster Ancestor suggested, Zhenjiao, I think we should perhaps cooperate with the automaton race and the insect race to find an opportunity to eliminate this astonishingly talented Lin Hao. Gen Ancestor said in a deep voice, I have the same intention. If the human race has one more figure like the Origin Ancestor, then it will be the end for our few races. Dream Monster Ancestor said, I will go contact the automaton race and the insect race. Gen Ancestor nodded, go. Having said that, Gen Ancestor sighed and said, the human race is truly blessed by the heavens. One Origin Ancestor was suppressed by the original universe will, and soon a new great axe emerged, and now a Lin Hao with talent comparable to the Origin Ancestor has popped up. It really makes one envious. In a certain silent starry sky, three powerful consciousnesses gathered directly here, turning into three blurry phantoms, an elliptical black spherical phantom, a silver serpent phantom, and a slender figure. Mengcha, why did you look for us? Said the Machine Father God, whose phantom was an elliptical black sphere. Dream Monster Ancestor Mengcha, whose phantom was a silver serpent, said, everyone, what do you think of that newly emerged Lord Haoshan of the human race? The slender figure, the Zerg Queen, chuckled, what do I think? How else can I think? Could it be that we should rush into the human race territory, find Lord Haoshan, and slaughter him? Dream Monster Ancestor Mengcha said, Queen is joking. Lord Haoshan must be hiding in some corner creating his own secret techniques right now, so of course he cannot be found. Machine Father God heard the hidden meaning, what? Does your monster race have ideas about Lord Haoshan? Dream Monster Ancestor said, that's right. Lord Haoshan's talent is too strong, and our monster race worries that he will be the next Origin Ancestor. As soon as Dream Monster Ancestor said this, Machine Father God and the Zerg Queen looked at each other. If Lord Haoshan could really grow to the level of the Origin Ancestor, the consequences would be unimaginable. Machine Father God pursued, what does your monster race plan to do? Dream Monster Ancestor said, if Lord Haoshan keeps hiding in the human race territory and does not come out, there is nothing we can do. Zhenjiao and I hope to reach an agreement with the two of you. If Lord Haoshan shows himself outside, we will make a move together to slay him. Machine Father God and the Zerg Queen pondered for a moment, and successively nodded in agreement. I agree. I have no objection. Dream Monster Ancestor said sinisterly, to prevent this Lord Haoshan from having a clone, after we capture him, it is best for the Queen to make a move and annihilate him with a soul attack, so that nothing can go wrong. The Queen nodded slightly, but in her heart, she was thinking, why not try to enslave his soul at that time? Even if his talent would drop significantly after soul enslavement, at least he would still be a powerful universe lord. After the three great beings finished discussing, they dispersed respectively. This starry sky returned to silence once again. Although Lin Hao did not know that the universe strongests of the three races, monster race, automaton race, and insect race, intended to make a move against him together. He had great self-awareness and was slightly a tiny bit cautious. He knew where his biggest fatal weakness was. With the Eternal Continent clone around, wanting to kill him through material or energy attacks was almost impossible. Even if his human main body was killed countless times, he could quickly recover with the Eternal Continent clone. But if he encountered a soul attack, that would be troublesome. Although the Eternal Continent clone did not have a soul, it shared the same soul origin with the human main body. Once the human main body died due to a soul attack, the Eternal Continent clone would die along with it. At that time, it would be a true fall. Lin Hao thought to himself, without creating a powerful soul defense secret technique, I will definitely not come out of closed-door cultivation. Afterwards, he looked at the opponent set up by the origin ancestor opposite him, executed the soul defense secret technique, and began to resist its soul attack. Chapter 166, Passing another 20,000 years. Time flies. 20,000 years passed. Within a certain secretive space in the virtual universe, Lin Hao was fighting arduously against an opponent. The long spear in his hand continuously brandished, and terrifying spear images descended one after another. But these spear images were resolved one by the opponent. Lin Hao's long spear paused, and his move suddenly changed. He unleashed a brand new secret technique, continuing to attack towards the opponent. In the distance, Origin Ancestor was quietly watching this battle. He thought to himself, Lin Hao's comprehension ability is truly astonishing. To create another Universe Lord ultimate secret technique in such a short time is simply terrifying. This move can also be considered top tier among ultimate secret techniques. However, although Lin Hao's move was powerful, the opponent's strength was even more astonishing. Not only did it block all of Lin Hao's moves, but it also had surplus energy to launch a counterattack. Before long, multiple injuries appeared on Lin Hao's body. His divine power was continuously consumed. Lin Hao sighed, it still wouldn't work after all. Then his gaze condensed, and an imperceptible ray of light flashed past, heading straight toward the opponent. This ray of light drilled into the opponent's body, and the next instant, the opponent's expression paused, and it fell to the ground and died. Origin Ancestor instantly arrived by Lin Hao's side and praised, not bad. Although the level of the physical attack secret technique is still somewhat lacking, your soul attack secret technique is becoming more and more exquisite. Origin Ancestor paused and continued, your move open black lens bracket Nirvana close black lens bracket can be considered top tier even among fusion ultimate secret techniques. Ordinary tier 5 universe lords don't have methods as formidable as yours. In 20,000 years, you have created 2 sets of fusion ultimate secret techniques and 3 sets of ultimate secret techniques. This comprehension ability is truly incredible. I am inferior to you. Lin Hao chuckled and said modestly, Grandmaster flatters me. It's all thanks to Grandmaster's good teaching. Origin Ancestor said, in another 10 years, the Primal Star will open. By then, you can make your move boldly, ha ha ha. Let those alien races witness the might of our human race's geniuses. Lin Hao smiled and said, yes. Disciple obeys. Origin Ancestor said, all right, for the next period of time, arrange it yourself. If you have any questions, just come find me. Over these past 20,000 years of unremittingly cultivating, Lin Hao was either using the secret pattern graph to create secret techniques and analyze secret techniques, or fighting against the opponents set by Origin Ancestor. Although with his current realm he wouldn't be exhausted, he would still feel fatigued after all. Resting for a bit is also good. Combining work with rest can yield twice the result with half the effort. Lin Hao nodded and bid farewell. Disciple withdraws. Then Lin Hao's consciousness left this space. Origin Ancestor stood in place, a smile appearing on his face. It's wonderful. With Lin Hao here, the future of our human race is promising. Origin Ancestor himself was a super genius. He rose at an extremely fast speed and became a universe strongest. Then, he created powerful soul attack secret techniques, leading the human race, which was back then only a powerful race, to rapidly rise within the primordial universe and develop and grow. During Origin Ancestors era, there wasn't even a single entity within the primordial universe that dared to challenge the human race. All other peak races were beaten into fear by Origin Ancestor. Those races without a universe strongest bowed their heads and submitted even more. After fighting throughout the primordial universe without a match, Origin Ancestor led the strong ones of the human race into the Universe Sea to fight, subduing all factions in the Universe Sea. Even the strongest faction of the First Universe era, the God Eye clan, had to lower their heads and concede defeat when meeting Origin Ancestor. People from the two holy lands of East Emperor and Purple Moon would also take a detour upon seeing Origin Ancestor. No one understood the true value of a genius better than Origin Ancestor. And now, Origin Ancestor suddenly discovered that his grand disciple's comprehension ability was no lower than his own back then, if not higher. How could this not make him excited? Among the two sets of fusion ultimate secret techniques, one set of soul attack secret techniques open black lens bracket nirvana close black lens bracket focuses on offense, the other set of soul defense secret techniques open black lens bracket junsho close black lens bracket focuses on defense, alongside 3 sets of ultimate secret technique material attack secret techniques. As long as the opponent does not have a supreme treasure, Lin Hao can be called invincible among universe lords within the primordial universe. Coupled with the fact that Lin Hao also has an incomparably huge clone, even a universe strongest holding a supreme treasure would find Lin Hao a massive headache when facing him in the primordial universe. Origin Ancestor looked at the place where Lin Hao left and muttered, "It's wonderful." Lin Hao's consciousness returned to the real world. He glanced at his panel. Open black lens bracket name, Lin Hao close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket race, human race close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket comprehension ability, 1.28 trillion close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket will, true god rank close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket gold origin law affinity, excellent. Space origin law affinity, excellent. Time origin law affinity, excellent. Gold space fusion law affinity, excellent. Water space fusion law affinity, excellent. Gold, wood, water, fire, earth, and space fusion law affinity, excellent. Wind, lightning, light, and time fusion law affinity, excellent close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket descendants, 182 rang people expandable to view details close black lens bracket. 1 rang equals 10,000 z equals 10 carat 8 guy equals 10 carat 12 jing equals 10 carat 20 e equals 10 carat 28. In Lin Hao's panel, the change in the number of descendants goes without saying. Today, Lin Hao is exalted as Lord Haoshan, and his Taoduoduo Mall has long since been a behemoth spread throughout the entire human race. The number of employees it possesses is measured in units of Gai. Naturally, it is not strange to have descendants measured in units of rang. With such a massive number of descendants, the benefits brought to Lin Hao are naturally even more astonishing. Comprehension ability has reached over 1 trillion. When his comprehension ability reached this level, he also gained an epiphany regarding such comprehension ability. A comprehension ability of over 1 trillion is equivalent to being able to cultivate to the Universe Lord realm at an extremely fast speed even without any law affinity. And creating a Tier 6 secret technique in a relatively short time, thereby reaching the true God realm. Afterward, within 3 universe eras, there is a glimmer of hope to reach the void true God realm. Lin Hao guessed that Origin Ancestor's comprehension ability was roughly like this, which was why he could achieve such terrifying accomplishments. Lin Hao thought to himself, the current me is not bad either. Aside from comprehension ability, the will has also reached the true God rank. This is also one of the reasons why the power of his soul attack secret technique is so formidable. Will is the general, and consciousness is the soldier. Once the general becomes powerful, the soldiers naturally become even stronger under the general's leadership. Then the law affinity column remains the same as before, the affinities for all origin laws and fusion laws are excellent. There are no changes. Over these past 20,000 years, aside from creating 2 sets of soul-type fusion ultimate secret techniques and 3 sets of offensive ultimate secret techniques, his insights into the origin laws have also made substantial progress. The time origin law has been completely comprehended. Except for the gold space fusion law, the other 7 fusion laws have all been comprehended to roughly the level of the 5th layer of the Elder God Cult's inheritance land. This is still due to the fact that his main energy was focused on creating secret techniques. Otherwise, comprehending the other 7 fusion laws to the 6th layer would not be a problem. Afterward, to comprehend these fusion laws, I can go to the Elder God Cult's inheritance land. It just so happens that the original universe will has opened up infinite authority for me, it would be a waste not to use it. Chapter 167, Going to the Yanshan Secret Region. Lin Hao's heart stirred, and he teleported to a place only 1,000 light-years away from his eternal continent clone, where there was a living planet named Lin Yuanxing. This was the new main star established by the Lin family within these past 20,000 years. Everyone living on this entire living planet consisted of relatives closely related by bloodline to Lin Hao. Slightly more distant descendants did not even have the qualifications to reside here. This was also where the base camp of the Lin family was located. Several of Lin Hao's wives also lived here. After Lin Hao achieved a breakthrough to the Universe Lord realm, Qingfeng moved out of the highest beginning mythical region and lived here. Because of Lin Hao's status, Qingfeng's significance within the highest beginning mythical region was no longer that great. Whatever resources she wanted, Lin Hao could provide them to her. Whatever kind of teacher she wanted to guide her cultivation, there were plenty of universe exalts willing to help guide her. Even Lin Hao himself could guide her, and he was more formidable than any teacher. Moreover, it was not very convenient for Qingfeng to live in the highest beginning mythical region. After all, previously Lin Hao's relationship with her was in a public state. Now that Lin Hao had become Lord Haoshan, Qingfeng's status also rose accordingly. Wherever she went, she was the focus, which was very inconvenient. Under such circumstances, Qingfeng naturally moved out of the highest beginning mythical region. Lin Yichen, on the other hand, still lived in the Primal Universe. For one thing, not many people knew of his identity as Lin Hao's son. Below the Universe Lord level, only a small number of Universe Exalts knew, and these people all knew the gravity of the situation. The identity of a Universe Lord's biological son, such information could be called an important secret of the human race. Even if this Universe Lord was a newcomer, it was definitely not something they could spread externally. Therefore, Lin Yichen did not suffer too much trouble. However, because of Lin Yichen's surname, he still received open and covert inquiries from quite a few people. Surnames in this world possessed a considerable degree of recognition, and the surname Lin was not very common. Naturally, many people had suspicions regarding Lin Yichen's identity. However, no one guessed the identity of Lin Hao's biological son. The probability of both father and son being a genius was simply too small, and more people guessed that Lin Yichen and Lin Hao were of the same clan. Although being of the same clan as a Universe Lord was also very astonishing, it was not as dazzling as being a Universe Lord's biological son. Lin Zhen and Lin Feng were in a similar situation. It was guessed that they were of the same clan as Lin Hao. Aside from outsiders having an extra portion of curiosity toward them, it did not cause any trouble to their cultivation and life. Lin Hao came to Lin Yuanxing and rested for a month, thoroughly enjoying a bout of family happiness. Among his many children, Lin Yufeng and Lin Baikan both used the treasures given to them by Lin Hao to achieve a breakthrough to the immortal level. Among them, Lin Yufeng even relied on treasures given by Lin Hao to break through to the World Lord rank. However, in this world, achieving a breakthrough to the immortal level granted endless lifespan, which had nothing to do with how one broke through. Even if you relied on treasures all the way from the planetary level to break through to the immortal level, you would still possess the exact same lifespan as other immortal level beings. As for his other children, Lin Hao was not in a rush to let them become immortal level beings. Giving them a bit of a sense of crisis was also good, saving them from stirring up trouble everywhere. As for the treasure for Lin Baikan's wife Lin Wanru too, Break through to the immortal level. Lin Hao considered it a bit of work motivation given to Lin Baiken. He definitely could not just lie flat. The grand enterprise of expanding the Taoduoduo Mall was still waiting for Lin Baiken to carry out. 1 month later, Lin Hao embarked on the journey toward the Yanshan Secret Region. The Yanshan Secret Region was not originally called by this name. It was after Emperor Yan led the Yanshan clan to betray the human race and came to this secret realm. Therefore, this secret realm was renamed the Yanshan Secret Region. Through the Divine Kingdom teleportation of one of Evelyn's soul slaves, Lin Hao arrived in the Void Realm hundreds of millions of light years away from the Yanshan Secret Region. This was already where the divine power imprint of Lin Hao's subordinate soul slave closest to the Yanshan clan was located. However, a distance of hundreds of millions of light years was not far for a Universe Lord. A Universe Lord could reach 10,000 light years in a single teleportation, and could repeatedly perform high-intensity teleportation. It only required a little over 10,000 teleportations to arrive. Alternatively, he could also use the Linglong Pagoda to fly over, which wouldn't take much time either. However, Lin Hao wanted to catch Emperor Yan off guard and see if he would make a move against him. Do not forget, back then his subordinate King Liang was killed by himself. Furthermore, as long as Emperor Yan investigated carefully, he would discover that back when Lin Hao defeated King Liang until King Liang met his death, there was a quite long period of time in between. With a little thought, one could discover that during this period of time, King Liang was in a coma, yet he wasn't killed by Lin Hao immediately while in a coma. Why was that? It was definitely because he wanted to do something to King Liang. And to such a comatose invincible champion powerhouse, what else could be done? Of course, it was soul enslavement. In this way, the matter of Emperor Yan enslaving his own subordinate would be known by Lin Hao. One could imagine how intense Emperor Yan's hostility toward Lin Hao was. And Lin Hao had only become a Universe Lord for 20,000 years, logically speaking, he shouldn't be too powerful. Emperor Yan might just not be able to help himself and make a move against Lin Hao. What if he took the Linglong Pagoda over, and because he saw the Linglong Pagoda, which was a peak supreme treasure, he didn't dare to make a move? Lin Hao chuckled and said, Emperor Yan, I hope you can honestly return the robe of robbers to me, otherwise, I will let you know that even with the origin soul, a soul-type peak supreme treasure, protecting you, I can still make you pay the price. Immediately afterwards, Lin Hao began continuous teleportation. Every single teleportation was as long as 10,000 light years. Moments later, Lin Hao appeared at the entrance of the Yanshan Secret Region. Lin Hao's consciousness instantly swept across the Yanshan Secret Region, and everything inside was taken in at a glance. After seeing the situation of the Yanshan Secret Region, he couldn't help but inwardly curse in his heart, he truly is a sinister villain. The reason was very simple. He discovered that within the entire Yanshan Secret Region, there were several gigantic continents with diameters measured in light years. Countless members of the Yanshan clan lived upon them. As everyone knew, the location where a life form was born determined that life form's upper limit. More accurately, the smaller the density when a life form was born, the more primordial universe essence it absorbed, and the greater its potential. Why was it said that humans born in secret realms had potential inferior to humans in universe countries? That was because continents several light years in size could be easily created within secret realms, and the population such a continent could support was comparable to the population of a universe country. Moreover, the size of a secret realm was generally far smaller than a universe country, and the Yanshan Secret Region was precisely like this. Meanwhile, the population of the Yanshan clan on these continents was incomparably massive, amounting to at least as many as 10 universe countries. Supporting such a huge population with such a small area, one could imagine the potential of these Yanshan clan members. At most they could break through to the immortal level. Wanting to break through to a universe exalt required obtaining an incomparably heaven-defying opportunity to succeed. As for a universe lord, there wasn't even a trace of a possibility. Logically speaking, with Emperor Yan's strength, although he could not gain a firm foothold in the core area of the primordial universe, occupying a territory the size of several universe countries in a slightly remote place was not difficult. Furthermore, he still had teacher Zuo Shank backing him up behind his back. Even if Zuo Shank did not make a move, it was still a form of deterrence. Those powerful clans simply did not dare to act insolently in front of Emperor Yan. What was Emperor Yan trying to do here? Lin Hao understood after thinking about it slightly. What Emperor Yan wanted was for the potential of the Yanshan clan members to be low. In this way, no one would be able to challenge his status. A sinister villain. Lin Hao sighed. Just as Lin Hao's consciousness was probing the Yanshan secret region, Emperor Yan also discovered this uninvited guest, and he shouted with an explosive roar, "Who is it?" Chapter 168, demanding the return of the robber armor. Instantly, a figure appeared outside the Yanshan secret region, confronting Lin Hao from afar. The newcomer was none other than Emperor Yan. This was a burly, single-horned, bald man wearing dark battle armor, about 10 meters tall, with a layer of scales on his skin resembling snake scales, and even his face was covered in scales. Between his eyebrows, a curved horn protruded and curved upward. His entire body exuded a tyrannical aura. Lin Hao silently sensed it and found that the opponent's gene level was very high, estimated to be around 10,000 times, which was not too far from the perfect gene. Such a gene level was considered outstanding even among universe lords. However, despite possessing such a gene level and holding several peak supreme treasures, his strength was only at the Tier 3 Universe Lord level. It was truly somewhat absurd. One could imagine how poor his comprehension ability was and how weak his self-created secret methods were. Lin Hao muttered to himself, this guy couldn't have failed to even create an ultimate secret method, right? Or even if he had created an ultimate secret method, the power of this ultimate secret method probably wouldn't be much to speak of. Emperor Yan carefully sized up Lin Hao and said after a moment, I wondered who it was. It turns out to be the human race's newly promoted Lord Haoshan. I wonder what brings you to my Yanshan clan. Could it be that your human race wants to start a war? Lin Hao smiled faintly. Emperor Yan has misunderstood. I have come this time to take back something. Emperor Yan frowned and said, what thing? Lin Hao said, the supreme treasure of my origin star lineage, the Jia armor. Jia armor. Emperor Yan was stunned upon hearing this. You. Lin Hao said, that's right, I am also a disciple of teacher Zuo Shank. The Jia armor is the supreme treasure of the leader of my origin star lineage, and I ask Emperor Yan to return it. Emperor Yan was silent for a moment, then suddenly laughed, so it's junior brother. Ha 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 ha, I didn't expect the human race's newly promoted universe lord to actually be my junior brother. What a joyous occasion. Lin Hao smiled and said, Emperor Yan is too polite. I wonder if the Jia armor can be returned. Lin Hao had no intention of making small talk with him at all and went straight to the point once more. Merely Emperor Yan, not to mention his grievances with the human race, just judging by his personality and character, Lin Hao did not like him. Therefore, Lin Hao naturally wouldn't be polite to him either. On the contrary, Lin Hao even wanted to provoke him so as to fight him, thereby having a reason to strike and snatch a batch of Yanshan clan members back. Emperor Yan's eyes narrowed slightly. Junior brother, what do you mean by this? Could it be that I, the dignified Emperor Yan, would embezzle your treasure? Lin Hao said, in that case, quickly return the Jia armor to me. Emperor Yan snorted coldly, HMPH. Lin Hao, it's not that I won't give you the Jia armor, but rather that I haven't figured out your identity. You should go back first. Once I find teacher Zuo Shank to confirm your identity, I will naturally return the Jia armor to you. Regarding the so-called identity issue, Emperor Yan knew very well in his heart that Lin Hao was indeed a disciple of Zuo Shank. After all, the matter of the Jia armor being entrusted to Emperor Yan for safekeeping could only be known by becoming a disciple of Zuo Shank. Outsiders had no way of knowing it at all. Moreover, Lin Hao broke through to become a universe lord in just tens of thousands of years. With such a rising speed, in Emperor Yan's view, only a disciple of Zuo Shank could achieve it. Therefore, Emperor Yan did not think Lin Hao's identity was fake. This was simply an excuse to delay returning the Jia armor. As for why Zuo Shank and Pudi did not inform Emperor Yan of Lin Hao's identity, that was unknown. Perhaps there was an intention to use Emperor Yan as a whetstone to test Lin Hao within it. Lin Hao sneered, "Emperor Yan, will you truly not give me the Jia armor?" Immediately, he took out the Qishao spear and held it in his hand. Emperor Yan carefully looked Lin Hao over and sensed that his gene level was only 6,000 times, thinking with disdain in his heart, only a 6,000 times gene level. HMPH. It seems your 9 tribulations secret code has not been cultivated to a satisfactory level. Emperor Yan looked at Lin Hao and said, "Lin Hao, this emperor will give you one last chance. If you retreat, this emperor will let bygones be bygones, if not, don't blame me for being discourteous to you." Lin Hao flourished his spear and said, "Cut the crap. If you won't give me the Jia armor, then let's fight." Emperor Yan said, "Good. Since you do not know what is good for you, don't blame me for being impolite." Finished speaking, the aura on Emperor Yan's body erupted instantly. A moment later, Emperor Yan transformed into a towering figure. He was nearly 10,000 kilometers tall, and the airflow sprayed from his nostrils caused the surrounding void realm to burn. That black single horn directly pierced the firmament, and his body was completely covered in dense black scales. Facing Emperor Yan's huge physique, Lin Hao did not show weakness either, and his divine body expanded instantly. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into a giant close to 800,000 kilometers tall. This was the result of Lin Hao casting the infinite growth secret method every year over the past 20,000 years. Ever since Lin Hao's gene level broke through 100 times, the effect of the infinite growth secret method every year had improved quite a bit compared to before. In an extremely short period of time, it grew from 50 kilometers to 100,000 kilometers. However, after exceeding 100,000 kilometers, the annual growth magnitude slowed down once again. Lin Hao guessed that it might have to wait until his gene level improved once more before the effect of the infinite growth secret method would improve again. After all, the human primary body was different from the eternal continent clone. The body size of the eternal continent clone was naturally incomparably huge, so even a tiny increase appeared terrifying. In contrast, the human primary body's initial size was only 1.8 meters, and being able to grow to such an extent was already very exaggerated. Lin Hao lowered his head to look at Emperor Yan, who was not even as high as his ankles. "Emperor Yan, take my spear." Lin Hao shouted loudly, and the Qishao spear in his hand thrust out instantly. Strongest secret method open black lens bracket flame shadow close black lens bracket. This was a secret method created by Lin Hao based on the fire space fusion law, superimposed with a portion of the gold space fusion law. Emperor Yan snorted coldly, insignificant skills. A melee-type peak supreme treasure, the Yanshan halberd, appeared in his hand. He waved the Yanshan halberd to resist Lin Hao's attack. Viewed from afar, it was as if a giant was fighting a dwarf. But in reality, both of their body sizes were calculated in tens of thousands of kilometers. The Qishao spear and the Yanshan halberd collided together. Boom! Emperor Yan's figure instantly flew backward. Emperor Yan secretly inspected the lost situation of his own divine power, and his expression changed drastically at once. Even with the Yanshan halberd to resist, coupled with the protection of the Jia armor, under this single move, Emperor Yan's divine body damage was close to 1%. You must know that this was 1% of a divine body nearly 10,000 kilometers tall. The Jia armor itself was prepared for cultivators of the 9 tribulations secret code. Emperor Yan could barely use a portion of its might only because of his Yanshan clan identity and high life gene level. Even so, under normal circumstances, he could still urge the first layer of the Jia armor to weaken material attacks to 1,000th. After burning divine power, he could urge the second layer of the Jia armor to weaken material attacks to 1/10,000th. Just now, Emperor Yan did not burn divine power and only urged the first layer of the Jia armor in his normal state. After Lin Hao's attack was resisted by the Yanshan halberd and then weakened to 1,000th by the Jia armor, it still caused such damage to Emperor Yan. Emperor Yan fell silent. He did not expect that Lin Hao, a newly promoted Universe Lord, would possess such terrifying strength. With just this single strike, it was enough to be called a Tier 4 Universe Lord. Emperor Yan was shocked in his heart. This Lin Hao has only become a Universe Lord for 20,000 years yet possesses such a powerful secret method. This talent is simply too terrifying. Chapter 169, Master, save me. Emperor Yan's eyes turned cold, and then he said, Lin Hao, you claim to be Master Zuo Shenqi's disciple, yet you brazenly attack me, your second senior brother. Do you still have Master Zuo Shenq in your eyes? Lin Hao chuckled lightly, what? Realizing you can't beat me and resorting to moral kidnapping. Emperor Yan let out a cold snort. Lin Hao, I told you before, I will verify your identity with Master. If you truly are Master's disciple, I will naturally return the Jia armor to you. Lin Hao shook his head. No, no, no. Master told me to come and get it myself, so I am here. Let me ask you one more time, are you going to give me the Jia armor or not? Emperor Yan's expression sank, and he angrily said, Lin Hao, do not push your luck. At the same time, Emperor Yan's divine power incarnation left in the Yanshan secret region condensed and emerged. Emperor Yan's divine power incarnation narrowed his eyes. Junior brother, oh junior brother, why must you be so aggressive? Do not blame me for betraying you, you asked for this. 20,000 years ago, the automaton race, insect race, and monster race simultaneously issued a bounty for information on Lin Hao. Such a bounty had an extremely small scope, and only the powerhouses above Universe Lord within the respective alliances of the three races knew about it. Although Emperor Yan was not in the alliances of the three races, because of his hostility towards the human race, he also knew about this matter. He arranged for his subordinates to inform the insect race of Lin Hao's presence in the Yanshan secret region. The subordinate accepted the order and left, passing through the God Country passage to arrive at the territory of the insect race. Although Lin Hao did not know that Emperor Yan had informed the insect race of his information, he wasn't too full of himself. The Qishao spear in his hand thrust out once again. Emperor Yan's expression changed slightly, and the divine power on his body began to burn, stimulating the second layer of the Jia armor. The Yanshan halberd in his hand danced and lashed out. Boom! Emperor Yan was blasted flying once again. However, this time, due to the stimulation of the second layer of the Jia armor, Emperor Yan's divine body only suffered about 1,000th of damage. Emperor Yan glared fiercely at Lin Hao, secretly thinking, just wait. You won't be able to laugh for long. The three races issued a bounty together, at least several universe lords will come to surround and kill you. Lin Hao looked at the Qishao spear in his hand, and then at the Yanshan halberd in Emperor Yan's hand. Although the Qishao spear was good, after all, it was not as good as a peak supreme treasure. If he also held a peak melee-type supreme treasure, even with the Jia armor on Emperor Yan, he could quickly defeat him. Yanshan halberd, I want it. Unfortunately, taking away the Jia armor was Zuo Shenqi's intention, but the Yanshan halberd could not be taken away. Who knows what position this Emperor Yan holds in Zuo Shenqi's heart? Lin Hao put away the Qishao spear and glanced at Emperor Yan. Only to see an imperceptible stream of light flash from Lin Hao's eyes, heading straight for Emperor Yan. Emperor Yan had good discernment and instantly understood that this was a soul attack. He thought disdainfully in his heart, with the dual protection of the Jia armor and the origin soul, what can mere soul attacks do to me? Emperor Yan gripped the Yanshan halberd without dodging at all, and then allowed the stream of light to drill into his body. The Jia armor could weaken soul attacks to 1/10. The origin soul was a soul amplification type supreme treasure. Emperor Yan was extremely strong in terms of his divine body, but slightly weaker in terms of the soul, only at the level of an ordinary universe lord. However, after fusing with the origin soul, his soul aspect could basically reach the level of a tier 4 universe lord. Although Emperor Yan could not bring out the soul amplification of the origin soul because he did not understand soul attack secret methods, purely in terms of defense, the origin soul left Emperor Yan without any shortcomings. Unless a tier 5 universe lord proficient in soul attacks made a move, there was simply nothing they could do to Emperor Yan. And now, coupled with the weakening effect of the Jia armor, even if a tier 5 universe lord proficient in soul attacks made a move, it would still be very difficult to pose a threat to Emperor Yan. Emperor Yan's origin soul and Jia armor supreme treasures, coupled with a life gene level close to 10,000 times, made his defense almost reach the top level of a tier 4 universe lord. But his law comprehension and secret methods were truly too poor, and his final comprehensive strength was only Tier 3. He was like a turtle, with astonishing defensive power, but his attacks were quite lacking. Throughout the endless years of the past, Emperor Yan had always been like this. He couldn't even be bothered to look at soul attack secret methods. Because he believed that the origin soul refined by Zuo Shank could definitely protect him. No sooner said than done. Lin Hao's soul attack secret method open black lens bracket nirvana close black lens bracket drilled into Emperor Yan's body. First, it experienced the weakening of the Jia armor, and then plunged headfirst into Emperor Yan's soul. Emperor Yan's soul, which had fused with the origin soul, was incomparably powerful and stable. The arrival of open black lens bracket nirvana close black lens bracket was like a poisonous needle piercing into it. A soul-deep pain instantly swept through Emperor Yan's mind. The expression that was originally disdainful changed drastically in an instant. Roar. Open black lens bracket nirvana close black lens bracket rampaged through Emperor Yan's soul like an excited husky. Emperor Yan's soul was in incomparable pain, roaring repeatedly yet feeling helpless. Emperor Yan deeply felt for a moment that he was going to die under this move. He hurriedly pulled out the communication token given by Zuo Shank. Master, save me. Junior brother is going to kill me. Deep within the Universe Sea, in an incomparably towering palace, an old man sat upright. The old man summoned the communication token in surprise and glanced at it. Lin Hao wants to kill Cao Benqi. Cao Benqi is asking for help. How did Lin Hao pull that off? The old man was puzzled. As to why the two of them suddenly started fighting, the old man couldn't be bothered to care. However, since both of them were his disciples after all, the old man sent a message to the two of them. You two should stop at the point of restraint, anything goes as long as no one dies. Emperor Yan collapsed and sat in the void realm, panting heavily. That soul attack was finally exhausted. Emperor Yan breathed a sigh of relief. Although this move by Lin Hao did not damage his divine power, his soul suffered severe damage. He glanced at Lin Hao with lingering fear, feeling shaken. This brat is too terrifying. To actually have such a powerful soul attack. It is simply unimaginable. Lin Hao looked at Emperor Yan leisurely. How about it? Do you still want to continue fighting? Master has sent a message telling us to stop at the point of restraint. You and I are senior and junior brothers, so it is better not to harm our cordial relations. Don't you think so, Emperor Yan? Emperor Yan remained silent. A moment later, with a complex look in his eyes, he removed the Jia armor from his body and threw it to Lin Hao. Emperor Yan glared fiercely at Lin Hao, and then teleported back to the palace in his Yanshan secret region to heal his injuries. Lin Hao caught the Jia armor, and after confirming there were no issues, he put it away. He did not cultivate the 9 Tribulations secret code and had no use for this gadget. Then Lin Hao looked towards the Yanshan continent. Divine power surged, and in an instant, nearly 100 million Yanshan clan members on the Yanshan continent disappeared. They were taken into the world ring by Lin Hao. Emperor Yan perceived all of this and communicated via spacetime fluctuations. Junior brother. What are you doing? Lin Hao laughed. Second senior brother, do not panic. I am simply interested in your Yanshan clan's genes and want to study them. Emperor Yan raged. How dare you? Once master finds out, he will definitely not let you off. Lin Hao laughed. Ha 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 ha, you can complain to master once again, but I won't accompany you any longer. Suddenly remembering something, he added, right, second senior brother, remember to help me prepare 10 million sub-bodies of the origin soul. I want all levels of them. Next time we meet, I will ask you for them. Do not forget this matter. After saying this, Lin Hao teleported away from this place. Emperor Yan glared fiercely in Lin Hao's direction, then took out the communication token and said, Master, Lin Hao not only injured me, but also abducted over 100 million members of my Yanshan clan, saying he wants to study their genes. Please make a decision, Master. Chapter 170, Another Conspiracy. Zuo Shank glanced at Emperor Yan's message. A thought stirred in his heart, researching the Yanshan clan's genes. Lin Hao's comprehension ability is extremely high, perhaps he can really research something out of the Yanshan clan's genes. If Lin Hao can successfully walk the divine power path, there will only be a sliver of a possibility that he can help me, Zuo Sheng thought to himself. However, Zuo Sheng still did not hold too much hope for Lin Hao. After all, being unable to make Star Tower acknowledge him as master meant he could not use this God King primary weapon, which also meant his will could not be tempered. There was also no possibility of successfully cultivating Liyuan technique. Zuo Sheng looked in the direction of the primordial universe. I hope the origin star lineage can produce someone capable of making Star Tower acknowledge them as master. As for Emperor Yan's complaints, Zuo Sheng did not care about them in the slightest. Although the Yanshan clan was created by himself, he did not care about them. Especially after Emperor Yan displayed his terrible nature, Zuo Sheng had already practically given up on the Yanshan clan. As for Lin Hao wanting to research the Yanshan clan's genes, Zuo Sheng even held an encouraging attitude. Emperor Yan's thoughts and ideas truly disappointed Zuo Sheng to the extreme. Zuo Sheng could not even be bothered to reply to Emperor Yan. He simply left him on read without replying. After teleporting several times to distance himself from the Yanshan secret region, Lin Hao finally had his soul slave open the Divine Kingdom passage. He stepped into the Divine Kingdom passage in a single stride. Not long after he left the Yanshan secret region, figure after figure appeared outside the Yanshan secret region. If the powerhouses of the human race saw this, they would definitely be greatly shocked. Because these figures were the universe lords of the automaton race, insect race, and monster race, respectively. Among these universe lords, the leader was none other than the Zerg Queen. The Zerg Queen directly detained Emperor Yan out of the Yanshan secret region. The Zerg Queen's seductive voice sounded, "Emperor Yan, where is Lord Haoshan?" Emperor Yan lowered his head and said, "Lord Haoshan has left." The Zerg Queen snorted coldly, "Left? Why didn't you make him stay? Do you know where he is now?" Emperor Yan said, "I don't know. Perhaps he has returned to human territory." The Zerg Queen raged, "Useless trash." The Zerg Queen also possessed extremely deep attainments in the Tao of the soul, and at a glance, she could see that Emperor Yan's soul was severely damaged. She asked, "Emperor Yan, why did your soul suffer such heavy trauma?" Emperor Yan said, "That Lin Hao is extremely skilled at soul attacks. I was careless for a moment and fell for his trick." The Zerg Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, as she considered whether to make a move and soul enslave Emperor Yan. However, shortly after, she abandoned this thought. Emperor Yan was not strong in power, but he had a powerful and mysterious teacher, Zuo Sheng. For a universe strongest burdened by her race like the Zerg Queen, it was best not to provoke a lone walker like Zuo Sheng if it could be avoided. Otherwise, the future troubles would be endless. Of course, the most important thing was that Emperor Yan had no conflict of interests with the insect race. If Emperor Yan were still in the human race, the Zerg Queen would not hesitate at all when it was time to make a move. What if he had a teacher who was alone universe strongest? If he truly posed a huge threat to the insect race, killing him was just killing him. But as for now, Emperor Yan was simply not to be feared. The Zerg Queen then left with the universe lords of the insect race. The remaining universe lords of the automaton race and monster race exchanged glances and left one after another. Within a silent void realm, 4 figures condensed and emerged. They were the Zerg Queen, Machine Father God, Dream Monster Ancestor, and Gen Ancestor, respectively. The Machine Father God asked, "Queen, how is that Lin Hao?" The Zerg Queen shook her head and said, "That Emperor Yan is too useless, he couldn't even entangle Lin Hao and let him run away." The Dream Monster Ancestor said, "Ran away? Emperor Yan is truly useless trash." Gen Ancestor said, "Although we missed out this time, we still have a chance." The Zerg Queen said, "I say, when can the 3 of you return from the Universe Sea? Since we are worried about Lin Hao's future threat, we must resolve it as soon as possible. If you don't come back, are you going to leave me alone in the primordial universe waiting idly like this?" The Dream Monster Ancestor said, "Queen, don't be anxious. Before the primal star opens, Gen Ancestor and I will return. I think Lin Hao will definitely show up at the primal star by then, and it won't be too late for us to make a move then." The machine father god also said, "That's right, I will also return by then." The Zerg queen nodded, "That would be best." Right, this time the strength Lin Hao displayed was very strong. He was able to use a soul attack secret method to heavily injure Emperor Yan. How long has it been since he became a universe lord? In a short span of 20,000 years, he actually created such a secret method. It is truly unimaginable. A cold glint flashed in the Zerg queen's eyes. This Lin Hao's talent is too terrifying, we absolutely cannot keep him alive. Hearing the Zerg queen's words, the other three universe strongest revealed looks of astonishment one after another. Even though Lin Hao became a universe lord in 30,000 years, which was already shocking enough, taking only 20,000 years to create a secret method capable of heavily injuring Emperor Yan's soul was evidently even more terrifying. The Dream Monster Ancestor and Gen Ancestor exchanged glances and said in unison, "We will return to the primordial universe at the fastest speed." The Machine Father God also said, "I am the same." After the four universe strongest finished conspiring, they dispersed separately. Lin Hao returned to the side of his eternal continent clone. With a wave of his hand, he released the hundreds of millions of Yanshan clan clansmen he had captured. These people of the Yanshan clan looked around in panic. The strongest among them were only at the World Lord rank and could not stir up any storms at all. Without even needing Lin Hao to make a move, the races created by the Eternal Continent clone could easily suppress them. Lin Hao gave an order to the people of the Eternal Research Institute, analyze the gene map of the Yanshan clan as soon as possible. The Yanshan clan's gene map was very miraculous, and the final research would definitely require Lin Hao to do it personally. However, the initial work of analyzing the gene map could be handed over to the people of the Eternal Research Institute to complete. And with the Yanshan clan on the Eternal Continent, Lin Hao could also observe them at any time. Therefore, Lin Hao was not worried at all that the Yanshan clan would run out and cause trouble. Capturing the Yanshan clan this time, aside from researching the gene map, had another purpose. That was to cultivate a branch of the Yanshan clan within the human race once again. If a peerless genius of the Yanshan clan was truly cultivated in the future, once he grew up, he could completely be sent to cause trouble for Emperor Yan. This matter had no benefit to Lin Hao, but it could disgust Emperor Yan immensely. Lin Hao thought to himself, when cultivating this branch of the Yanshan clan, they can first intermarry with my own descendants, and then send their descendants to Yuan Star for cultivation. Would a powerhouse possessing the advantages of both the Origin Star lineage and the Yanshan clan lineage be born? By then, thinking of this, Lin Hao couldn't help but look forward to it. This matter had great potential. After placing the Tribulation armor at the center of the Eternal Continent clone, Lin Hao left again. He still had to make a trip to the Elder God cult. He hadn't even been to the Treasure Land yet. 20,000 years ago, for the ceremony where the Elder God cult appointed him as the cult-protecting Divine Lord, he only sent a Divine Power incarnation to attend. In truth, it was just showing his face and going through the motions. The three ancestor gods of the Elder God cult also knew that Lin Hao had just broken through to become a Universe Lord and had many matters to attend to, so they didn't care about this. Chapter 171, How to Trigger the Treasure Trove. Lin Hao arrived at his residence on Bohemia Island of the Elder God cult via the kingdom teleportation of his soul servant. As he pushed open the door, countless pairs of eyes in the dark quietly watched Lin Hao. "That is Lord Haoshan. Quickly go and report to the Queen, Lord Haoshan has appeared in the Elder God cult. The Dream Monster Ancestor and Gen Ancestor told us to keep an eye on Lord Haoshan long ago, and now he has finally appeared." The four universe strongest from the monster race, insect race, automaton race, and other factions simultaneously received the news that Lin Hao had appeared in the Elder God cult. Unfortunately, this message was completely useless. The Elder God cult was shrouded by the five-color Aurora Lake, which was a supreme true treasure. If possible, the four universe strongest did not want to face the five-color Aurora Lake. Although they would not easily die when facing the attacks of the five-color Aurora Lake, it would definitely be very uncomfortable. Furthermore, Lin Hao was already a Universe Lord, and a Universe Lord capable of severely injuring Emperor Yan. Such an expert was difficult to deal with, and if a single universe strongest made a move, they wouldn't be able to take him down in a short while. And if it dragged on for too long, the experts of the Elder God cult were no pushovers. One must know that Lord Haoshan still held the identity of a cult protection god lord. By then, it would definitely attract a siege by the experts of the Elder God cult. Moreover, trespassing into the core territory of the Elder God cult violated its rules. That would be provoking the Elder God cult, and if they provoked the Elder God cult, the consequences would be severe. In the primordial universe, the Elder God cult was the guardian of the universe's operation rules, and it might ultimately attract the attention of the original universe will. The gains would not outweigh the losses. Because of all these reasons, they ultimately decided not to make a move here at the Elder God cult. Lin Hao teleported outside the water curtain of the treasure land. With a step, he entered the water curtain and was teleported to the treasure land. Lin Hao appeared on a mountain peak. Lin Hao raised his head and looked into the distance, seeing mountain peaks that were either steep or wondrously unique. Tens of thousands of mountain peaks stretched on continuously, with no end in sight. Between some of the peaks were patches of lakes. The lakes varied in size, with the large ones exceeding 1,000,000 kilometers in diameter. These lakes also came in different colors, either emerald green like giant jades or pitch black like ink. Above this area was the 5-color Aurora Lake. This place was still within the shroud of the 5-color Aurora Lake. Lin Hao's body soared into the air, flying toward the 108 highest mountain peaks. For him now, among the treasures of the treasure land, I'm afraid only the treasures on these 108 highest mountain peaks could catch his eye. Lin Hao glanced at the countless inheritors searching for treasures everywhere. Figures could be seen on those peaks, mountainsides, mountain hollows, beside the lakes, above the lakes, and even in the lake water. Flesh and blood life forms, rock-type life forms, energy-type life forms, plant-type life forms, and various other types of life forms were countless, and there were even quite a few special life forms. Of the hundreds of millions of inheritors on Bohemia Island, excluding those not on Bohemia Island, more than half of the inheritors would probably come here to try their luck. There were also a few bold and skilled inheritors who would head to the secret realm locations to adventure. When Lin Hao saw the inheritors below also saw Lin Hao. Aside from the inheritors of the automaton race, insect race, and monster race who lowered their heads to avoid him, most of the inheritors from other races paid their respects to Lin Hao with respectful postures. After all, Lin Hao was a cult protection god lord, holding a transcendent status within the Elder God cult. Moreover, Lin Hao had just assumed the position of cult protection god lord 20,000 years ago, and many inheritors had seen his appearance, so he was not unfamiliar to them. Other cult protection god lords were different, most inheritors had never seen them. Lin Hao glanced over and withdrew his gaze. Soon, he flew above the 108 mountain peaks. He thought to himself, let's try them one by one. If none of these 108 mountain peaks trigger the conditions to obtain treasures, there is no need to continue wasting time in this treasure land. Lin Hao swept across the 108 mountain peaks at an extremely fast speed. As a result, nothing happened. Without exception, none of the treasures on the 108 mountain peaks were triggered. Lin Hao furrowed his brows slightly. There isn't even a single treasure. Just as he was pondering, a figure flew in front of Lin Hao. Hello, Lord Haoshan. Lin Hao looked at the newcomer and found that the other party was a universe exalt from the Wolf Man clan within the human race, named Venerable Qingfeng. Lin Hao nodded slightly. Hello, Venerable Qingfeng. Lin Hao had previously met Venerable Qingfeng once in the virtual universe. This was a universe exalt who had received a complete divine general legacy, and his strength had reached the level of a universe overlord. However, accepting a complete divine general legacy also meant that his realm was locked, and he could no longer advance further. Of course, normally speaking, wanting to become a universe lord was extremely difficult. With Venerable Qingfeng's talent, it was almost impossible to break through and become a universe lord. Without the divine general legacy, Venerable Qingfeng would probably have been just an ordinary universe exalt. The current Venerable Qingfeng could be called a Universe Overlord, able to protect himself even under ordinary Universe Lords. The gains and losses between this were truly hard to measure. However, Lin Hao thought to himself, hopefully he won't regret it in the future. After all, once the Duandong legacy and the world of Jin came into being, the human race obtained a massive amount of legacies, greatly lowering the difficulty of becoming a Universe Lord. Perhaps Venerable Feng would have such an opportunity. However, it was too late to say anything now. Venerable Feng had already accepted the complete Divine General Legacy, and his realm was locked. These were all thoughts that flashed through Lin Hao's mind. Lin Hao looked at Venerable Feng and asked, "Venerable Feng, is there something you need?" Venerable Feng said, "Lord Haoshan, I see that you seem to be probing the treasures of these 108 mountain peaks, so I specially came to remind you." Lin Hao asked curiously, "Oh, remind me of what?" Venerable Feng said, "Lord Haoshan, the opening of treasures in this treasure land requires inheritors to meet certain conditions. All of this is judged and executed by the control system of the Elder God cult, and this control system is also connected to the Glory World. Although you are a revered Universe Lord, you do not seem to have displayed your strength in the Glory World, and therefore, some harsh conditions naturally cannot be met." Venerable Feng finally said, "You can think about what is the biggest difference between you and everyone else. Perhaps after displaying this aspect of your ability in the Glory World or in the real world, it can trigger the opening of treasures." Lin Hao really didn't know this point. He had thought that the control over the opening of the treasure land was in the hands of the original Universe Will, but he didn't expect it to be operated simply by an intelligent system controlled by the Elder God cult. The biggest difference from everyone else. Lin Hao instantly understood what to do. He looked earnestly at Venerable Feng and said, "Venerable Feng, thank you for your reminder." Venerable Feng smiled and said, "Being able to help you is my honor." Lin Hao nodded at Venerable Feng, "I am going to stimulate another form, please step back a bit." Venerable Feng quickly retreated dozens of kilometers. With a thought from Lin Hao, the Shuiluo power inside his body, which had already integrated the power of 8 natural beast gods, began to circulate instantly. Moments later, Lin Hao transformed into a giant beast possessing the characteristics of 8 natural beast gods. This was Lin Hao's beast god form. Lin Hao instantly appeared on the highest mountain peak. Suddenly, the mountain peak issued a violent vibration. Chapter 172, Supreme Treasure, Beast God Undying Armor. Venerable Feng was dumbfounded. Venerable Feng stammered, "Lord Haoshan, could this all have been caused by you?" Before Lin Hao could reply, countless inheritors across the entire treasure land went crazy. "A treasure is born. A treasure is born. It is the highest peak. The most precious treasure in the entire treasure land has been born. Who caused it? There are dozens of inheritors near that peak. Could it be this lucky fellow? It seems Lord Haoshan changed his appearance, arrived at the highest peak, and then the tremors appeared. ... The inheritors near the highest peak were ecstatic. I caused it. I caused it. None of you can fight me for it. Ha ha ha. I knew the treasure of the highest peak would definitely belong to me. Hard work pays off, I've finally waited for it." All of the above were just delusions of these inheritors. In reality, they had explored near the highest peak countless times without gaining anything. Soon, countless rays of light suddenly fell from 5-color Aurora Lake above the treasure land, tightly surrounding the highest peak. The next second, countless inheritors were teleported away by the power of 5-color Aurora Lake. "No, this is my treasure trove. A shady deal. There is definitely a shady deal going on." Dozens of inheritors roared furiously in utter exasperation. Who is the person that obtained the treasure trove? These inheritors inspected each other. Soon, they reached a conclusion. Lord Haoshan didn't come out. How could it be him? Some inheritors were unconvinced. Lord Haoshan is already a Universe Lord, why is he still fighting with us for a treasure? Inheritors even further away also discussed animatedly. I didn't expect the treasure trove of the highest peak to open today, and even less did I expect it to be opened by a Universe Lord. How truly enviable. Lin Hao originally grew into a Universe Lord at an extremely fast speed, and now he has actually obtained the most valuable treasure in the entire treasure land. Why are his talent and luck so good? How unfair this world is. In the hearts of countless inheritors, only jealousy and hatred remained. Lin Hao, who was at the highest peak, couldn't care about the reactions of others at this moment. He stared at the highest peak in front of him. At this moment, the highest peak had split from the middle, as if a giant had cleaved it in half from the middle with an axe. A black world ring flew out from the crack and came before Lin Hao. Lin Hao caught the world ring with his hand and probed his consciousness into it. I wonder what level of treasure it is. The dignified highest peak should at least be a top-tier treasure. Lin Hao thought to himself. He saw a complete set of equipment inside the world ring. A total of 7 pieces of equipment: sharp claws, wings, tail sting, armor, battle boots, crown, and tooth spikes. Lin Hao injected his divine power into this set of equipment. At the same time, information regarding this set of equipment flooded into Lin Hao's mind. I didn't expect that every single piece in this complete set of equipment is actually a peak treasure. Once combined together, it becomes a supreme treasure. Lin Hao summoned this set of equipment and carefully inspected it. This set of equipment was named Beast God Undying Armor, consisting of a total of 7 peak treasures, fully equipped with functions like defense, attack, speed, and so on. Moreover, this set of equipment was restricted to be used only by a universe lord with extremely high beast god bloodline. Just after Lin Hao finished inspecting the equipment, suddenly, a powerful coercive pressure quietly descended. The original universe will had descended. And this time, the original universe will did not make a big fanfare like in the past. Instead, it was silent, and no one outside the area surrounded by 5-color Aurora Lake knew about it. Unease. Must go to the Universe C. Reward. Beast God Undying Armor. The original universe will came quickly and left quickly. After reaching a deal with Lin Hao, it departed. Lin Hao thought to himself, this Beast God Undying Armor is not easy to take. This transaction between the original universe will and Lin Hao was very simple. It requested Lin Hao to go to the Universe C to explore the cause of the original universe will's unease, and the reward was the Beast God Undying Armor. It was just that this transaction gave the reward to Lin Hao in advance. The unease of the original universe will. Lin Hao knew it too well. It was nothing more than the world beasts deep within collapsing peak world. It was just that Lin Hao didn't expect the original universe will to perceive the crisis so early. Of course, perhaps the original universe will hadn't perceived a crisis, but only felt a faint unease. Perhaps it even had this feeling long ago, but the original universe will had no one available under it and had no way to investigate the truth. After all, an existence that could make the original universe will feel uneasy was not something ordinary universe lords could investigate clearly. Or perhaps the original universe will had sent people to investigate before, but all returned empty-handed. Now Lin Hao's appearance gave the original universe will a trace of anticipation. Coupled with Lin Hao's various fusion law affinities and possession of the beast god form, the original universe will had some more favorable impression towards Lin Hao, which was why it was so generous, giving away a set of supreme treasures just like that. In fact, Lin Hao was not in a hurry to explore the cause of the original universe will's unease. Anyway, the original universe will didn't set a time limit, and it leaned more towards a try-your-luck mindset. Lin Hao planned to go explore collapsing peak world after the primal star ended. After all, that dim place was full of dangers, and making more preparations wouldn't hurt. Nor did Lin Hao plan to directly tell the original universe will about the world beast crisis. Firstly, he couldn't explain the reason why he knew about this matter. Secondly, its authenticity couldn't be verified. Suddenly, Lin Hao's heart stirred. Perhaps it wouldn't be too late to go explore collapsing peak world after analyzing Kandri's clone secret technique and self-creating a similar clone secret technique. Thinking of this, Lin Hao stopped struggling with this matter and instead looked at the beast god Undying Armor. This is a supreme treasure. Tisk tisk tisk, even Great Axe doesn't have such a treasure. Lin Hao sighed with emotion. As for this supreme treasure, Lin Hao didn't mind telling the human race. The beast god Undying Armor could only be used by a universe lord with the innate beast god bloodline. And on the side of the human race, apart from Lin Hao himself, no one else could use the beast god undying armor. Of course, if Lin Hao wanted to intentionally conceal it, it wouldn't be impossible, but there was no need to do so. Present-day Lin Hao no longer feared any faction. Even if he stood as an enemy to the entire human race, he wouldn't fear it in the slightest. He believed that the upper echelons of the human race would make the correct choice. Lin Hao instantly completed the master recognition of the beast god undying armor, and then stored it into his body. Only at this moment did the light of 5-color aurora lake surrounding the surroundings return above the treasure land. The moment the light vanished, countless inheritors rushed near the highest peak. However, when they were still a long distance away from Lin Hao, they all stopped in their tracks. Lin Hao was Lord Hoshan and also the teaching protector god lord of the Elder God cult. Not only was his status transcendent, but his strength also far surpassed theirs. No one dared to easily provoke Lin Hao. Chapter 173 Master and Disciple Dialogue. Lin Hao glanced at the legacy inheritors, then looked at Venerable Qingfeng. Qingfeng, let us go. Venerable Qingfeng nodded slightly with excitement, as Lord Hoshan commands. Maintaining his beast god form, Lin Hao brought Qingfeng flashing past the remaining 107 peaks. Lin Hao originally wanted to see if he could open a treasure trove again, but unfortunately, the 107 peaks had no reaction whatsoever. Lin Hao thought to himself with regret, forget it, getting a supreme treasure is already an unexpected joy, one shouldn't be too greedy. As for the areas outside these 108 peaks, Lin Hao did not go to explore them. For Lin Hao, only these 108 peaks were worth exploring. Exploring other areas for a treasure trove would be meaningless. Lin Hao looked at Venerable Qingfeng. Qingfeng, I am leaving the treasure land. If you have time, you can come to my Hoshan Island as a guest. Hoshan Island was the territory that the Elder God cult promised to give to Lin Hao. Lin Hao hadn't been to the Elder God cult in these 20,000 years, and he hadn't even been to Hoshan Island yet. Upon hearing this, Venerable Qingfeng was overjoyed. What he wanted was precisely these words from Lin Hao. So what if this Universe Lord was a newly advanced Universe Lord? He was still a dignified Universe Lord. Who wouldn't want to butter him up? Venerable Qingfeng quickly said, good. If there is a chance, I will definitely visit Hoshan Island. Lin Hao nodded, then left the treasure land. Having just returned to Bohemia Island, Lin Hao saw a youth waiting for him. It was precisely the youthful ancestral god. The youthful ancestral god cupped his hands toward Lin Hao. Lord Hoshan, I had nothing to do, so I came over to take a look. I heard that you obtained the treasure trove of the first peak. Congratulations, congratulations. Lin Hao smiled and said, many thanks. The two exchanged a few pleasantries and flew out of the range of Bohemia Island. Together. At this time, with no one around, the youthful ancestral god curiously asked, Lord Hoshan, what is the treasure trove of the first peak? Is it a peak supreme treasure? Lin Hao asked in return, I heard that the treasure trove of this first peak was placed inside by an ancestral god. Could it be that you don't know what the treasure trove is? The youthful ancestral god shook his head, that is merely a rumor. In fact, the first 10 peaks were all left behind by the great original universe will, and even I do not know what the treasure trove contains. Lin Hao suddenly understood, so that was how it was. He was still puzzled just now. Such a set of supreme treasures as the beast god undying armor, how could the ancestral gods bear to put it into the treasure land? Even if they couldn't use it because they didn't possess the beast god bloodline, wouldn't the Elder God cult have universe lords with the beast god bloodline currently? Why not let them use it? Now he understood, this beast god undying armor wasn't put in by the ancestral gods at all, but by the original universe will. Put this way, it made sense. No wonder when he triggered the beast god undying armor, the original universe will descended. Lin Hao said, it is indeed a peak supreme treasure. The youthful ancestral god firmly believed this. As expected, you truly have great luck. The two chatted for a few more sentences, and then the youthful ancestral god left. Lin Hao smiled, then came to his own Hoshan Island. Hoshan Island was located in a slightly outer region of the 8 beast god temples. On the island stood an incomparably huge palace named Hoshan Palace. This was the residence of Lin Hao, the cult-protecting divine master. After entering Hoshan Palace, Lin Hao left his own divine power mark, and also had his soul slaves leave their divine power marks so that they could use divine kingdom teleportation later. Previously, when Lin Hao dispatched a divine power incarnation to attend the inauguration ceremony of the cult-protecting beast god, he had not been to Hoshan Palace. Now was the first time he had come here. Suddenly, Ice Peak Lord sent a message to Lin Hao, saying, "If you are free, come over here." Lin Hao's consciousness entered the virtual universe. Ice Peak Lord was very happy to see Lin Hao. "Ha ha ha ha, you kid or something else, without a sound you actually stirred up a big news." Lin Hao smiled. Teacher knew about it so quickly. Ice Peak Lord said, "I heard people from the Eternal Research Institute say that you hauled over 100 million clansmen of the Yanshan clan, and I heard you even beat up Emperor Yan." Lin Hao. He had thought Ice Peak Lord was going to talk about the first peak of the Elder God cult's treasure land, but he didn't expect him to talk about the Yanshan clan matter. Lin Hao said, "In these 20,000 years, I have created 2 sets of fusion ultimate secret techniques in terms of the soul. Emperor Yan's strength is not strong, he just has relatively many supreme treasures on him, which is why he was defeated by me." Ice Peak Lord clicked his tongue inwardly. Fusion ultimate secret techniques. And you created 2 sets. Using only 20,000 years of time. Some people said your comprehension ability is comparable to your Grandmaster. Now it seems this saying is not false, and you might even surpass him. Lin Hao modestly said, "Teacher flatters me." Pausing for a moment, Lin Hao added, "Right, teacher, this time when I was treasure hunting in the treasure land of the Elder God cult, I obtained a set of supreme treasures." Ice Peak Lord was stunned upon hearing this, and excitedly asked, "Supreme treasures? What kind of supreme treasures?" Lin Hao displayed the information of the beast god undying armor. Ice Peak Lord quickly examined it, and his excited mood gradually calmed down. "It requires a universe lord with the beast god bloodline to use." Sigh. "What a pity," Ice Peak Lord said with regret. "I originally thought this supreme treasure could be used by the Great Axe founder, but I didn't expect there to be such a restriction. Even if the Great Axe founder forced its use, I'm afraid it would ultimately only unleash the power of a peak supreme treasure." What a pity. Lin Hao was silent for a moment, then spoke earnestly, "Teacher, give me 100 million years, and surpassing the Great Axe founder will definitely be no problem." Ice Peak Lord looked at the disciple before him, who was so confident and high-spirited, and couldn't help but reveal a smile. "Ha ha ha, you are right. With your talent and potential, teacher believes you can definitely surpass the Great Axe founder." Lin Hao smiled and said, "Thank you for your trust, teacher." Ice Peak Lord nodded. "Regardless of everything, you now possess supreme treasures, and your secret techniques have also reached the level of fusion ultimate secret techniques. In the primordial universe, even when facing a universe strongest holding a supreme treasure, you have the strength to fight." Lin Hao nodded. Ice Peak Lord changed the topic. "I am talking about within the primordial universe, but if you enter the Universe C, you still need to be a bit careful. After all, universe strongests are restricted by rules within the primordial universe, but in the Universe C, they can unleash even stronger power, and by then your current strength won't be enough." Lin Hao nodded earnestly. "I understand, I won't enter the Universe C in the short term." Call Lin Hao cowardly or call him cautious. In short, Lin Hao planned to lay low first. At the very least, waiting until he created a secret technique surpassing Fusion Ultimate before entering the Universe C wouldn't be too late. Lin Hao was very young, he had plenty of time to cultivate and grow. His comprehension ability would also become higher and higher as time passed. There was no need to rush into the Universe C to take risks. After a moment of silence, Ice Peak Lord asked, "Lin Hao, are you willing to tell others the news of you obtaining supreme treasures?" Lin Hao smiled and said, "Of course you can, teacher. Just as you said, the current me is fearless inside the primordial universe." Chapter 174, The Supreme Meeting of the Human Race is convened. Ice Peak Lord nodded slightly, then informed Primordial Chaos City Lord of this news. He also casually told him about Lin Hao creating 2 sets of supreme fusion secret techniques on his own. In an instant, Primordial Chaos City Lord appeared before Ice Peak Lord and Lin Hao. Primordial Chaos City Lord looked at Lin Hao with gleaming eyes. Lord Haoshan, you must master this supreme true treasure as soon as possible. With the upcoming opening of the Primal Star, perhaps our human race can obtain even greater benefits. Lin Hao nodded solemnly and said, yes, Senior Martial Uncle. Ice Peak Lord asked, Chaos, how much time is left before the Primal Star opens? Primordial Chaos City Lord said, according to calculations, there is still about 15 years left. Ice Peak Lord nodded. 15 years is a bit short, Lin Hao, you need to hurry up. A supreme true treasure is not something you can just use upon getting your hands on it. To unleash the power of a supreme true treasure, not only does it take time to adapt to its secret patterns, but one also needs to create matching secret techniques. Take the Beast God Undying Armor for example. It is a complete set of treasures, including claws, armor, boots, wings, and other equipment. To unleash its full power, Lin Hao's current secret technique simply won't do. Of course, forcefully executing it with currently owned secret techniques is not impossible, but the power will be greatly discounted. Ice Peak Lord added, you don't have to rush to enter during the early stage of the Primal Star's opening. It won't be too late to enter after some time passes. The Primal Star opens once every 100,000 eras, and each opening lasts for 1,000 eras. That is a full 10+ million years. With such a long time, how long has Lin Hao been cultivating until now? Only 50,000 years. 10 million years is enough for Lin Hao to create even stronger secret techniques. Facing his teacher's suggestion, Lin Hao nodded, I will consider it. Primordial Chaos City Lord said, regarding the matter of you obtaining a supreme true treasure, I suggest not publicizing it on a large scale to avoid unnecessary trouble. Even within our human race, the news should be controlled so that only a few people know. It's enough for Great Axe, Darkness, and Peng Gong to know, there is no need to notify others. Lin Hao did not care much about this. Ice Peak Lord also said, Chaos, you can call the shots on this matter. I have no objection. After finishing this matter, Primordial Chaos City Lord left. Ice Peak Lord watched the departing Primordial Chaos City Lord and smiled as he said to Lin Hao, you obtaining a supreme true treasure has made Chaos breathe a sigh of relief. Although your supreme true treasure has various restrictions in its use, having one is better than having none, right? Ha ha ha. It could be seen that Ice Peak Lord was also very happy. Lin Hao said, I will definitely master this set of supreme true treasures as soon as possible to make our human race even stronger. Ice Peak Lord nodded, I believe in you. Lin Hao walked out of Ice Peak Lord's palace, and in the next instant, he disappeared. Lin Hao looked toward the white-robed figure ahead and said respectfully, Grandmaster. The white-robed figure was none other than Origin Ancestor. Origin Ancestor said, I've heard all about it. You've obtained a supreme true treasure, which is very good. If there's anything you don't understand, you can come and ask me at any time. Lin Hao never dared to underestimate Origin Ancestor. He had guessed very early on that Origin Ancestor's comprehension ability should have reached 1 trillion, which was about the same as his current self. He had only cultivated for 50,000 years to become a Universe Lord, and among Universe Lords, he belonged to the 5th-tier existence. What about Origin Ancestor? Having cultivated for endless years, even though he was later suppressed by the original universe will and unable to cultivate, his insights had never stopped, and he could still create secret techniques on his own. Not to mention anything else, just the 10th-tier secret technique Virtual Universe alone was enough for Lin Hao to look up to now. As for the supreme true treasure set Beast God Undying Armor, he might really be able to get some inspiration from Origin Ancestor here. Lin Hao said, then all trouble Grandmaster. Origin Ancestor smiled, it's no trouble. Afterwards, for a period of time, Lin Hao began a regular cultivation life. The vast majority of his energy was placed on mastering the Beast God Undying Armor, occasionally heading to the Inheritance Land to receive insights into fusion law inheritances other than Golden Space. When encountering difficult problems, he would enter the virtual universe to find Origin Ancestor for clarification. 5 years later, the human race convened the Supreme Meeting. Unlike meetings like the Great Axe meeting where only powerful beings above the Universe Lord level participated, anyone above the Universe Exalt level could participate in this Supreme Meeting. Pantheon Mountain and Pantheon Temple in the virtual universe were the convening locations for the human race's Supreme Meeting. Lin Hao appeared here. On a huge golden throne, Lin Hao sat down. He looked around. Aside from him, there were 15 other golden thrones of the same size as his, and quite a few Universe Lords had already taken their seats. Lin Hao nodded to these Universe Lords as a gesture of greeting. In the middle of these golden thrones, there were also 2 black thrones left empty. These were the seats of Great Axe Founder and Origin Ancestor. Aside from these, there were surrounding seats of varying sizes. These seats were prepared for the Universe Exalts. The seats of Universe Lords were the largest, followed by Universe Overlords. Senior Universe Exalts, Intermediate Universe Exalts, Junior Universe Exalts, and so on, decreasing in size sequentially. Their widths were 1,000 meters, 200 meters, 50 meters, 10 meters, and 2 meters, respectively. Before long, all the Universe Lords had arrived, with Great Axe Founder arriving last. Great Axe Founder looked at the surrounding Universe Lords. Then, let's begin. The various Universe Lords nodded and agreed one after another. Great Axe spoke. Human powerful beings, gather. As soon as Great Axe's voice fell, the doors of Pantheon Temple slowly opened. In the next second, thousands of Universe Exalts were teleported in from outside the hall. All Universe Exalts sat in their respective seats. Their respective divine body sizes matched their thrones. Lin Hao glanced over. Quite a few familiar figures were among them. Venerable Lin Yuan, Venerable Giant Sword, Venerable Bingmeng, Venerable Feng, and others were all among them. As all the Universe Exalts arrived, the doors of Pantheon Temple slowly closed. Rumble. Great Axe Founder glanced at the people inside the venue and smiled with emotion. My human race has grown much stronger once again. Great Axe Founder's voice was only heard by the various Universe Lords. Many Universe Lords cast their gazes toward Lord Yuho and Lin Hao. Although the human race had been continuously growing over the years, the biggest change was probably these 2 newly advanced Universe Lords, Lord Yuho and Lin Hao. Within tens of thousands of years, consecutively giving birth to 2 Universe Lords was extremely rare in the entire history of the human race. However, only a few Universe Lords knew the meaning behind Great Axe Founder's words. While the 2 newly advanced Universe Lords were certainly worth celebrating, a supreme true treasure belonging to the human race was the most crucial thing of all. Although Great Axe Founder could not use this supreme true treasure, when used by Lin Hao, a super genius whose strength had already reached the 5th-tier Universe Lord level, he could similarly roam and be invincible in the primordial universe. Moreover, powerful beings like Great Axe Founder, Darkness Lord, and Lord Pengong had even greater expectations in their hearts. If Lin Hao could break through to become a universe strongest in a short period of time, the supreme true treasure in his hands could truly unleash its maximum effect. They had great confidence in Lin Hao. Chapter 175, Great Axe Founder also wants to guide Lin Hao. If Lin Hao knew about their expectations, he could only say sorry to them. Lin Hao did not want to break through to the true God realm so quickly. At the very least, his divine power root had to reach 60,000 times genes before talking about breaking through to become a true god. Lin Hao didn't dare to expect 90,000 or 100,000 times genes, so he first set a small goal. 60,000 times genes would do. Great Axe Founder looked at Primordial Chaos City Lord and said, "This time, Chaos, you should still host the meeting." Primordial Chaos City Lord nodded slightly, then looked down as his magnificent voice spread throughout the entire Pantheon. "Everyone, the convening of this supreme meeting is because the Primal Star is about to open." All the Universe Exalts quieted down one after another, quietly listening to the words of Primordial Chaos City Lord. The opening time of this Primal Star is 10 years from now. Everyone get ready. The most core place of the entire universe was the Universe Origin Land. However, for infinite years, besides consciousness occasionally descending upon the Universe Origin Land, Not a single super powerhouse could personally arrive at the universe origin land. That seemed to be an illusory place. But the primal star truly existed. There were a total of 10,081 primal stars. According to the information spread since the birth of the universe, these 10,081 primal stars surrounded the universe origin land, and could be called the places closest to the universe origin land in the entire universe. These 10,081 primal stars also nurtured countless treasures and possessed numerous crises. There were a total of 10,081 passages leading to the primal stars, but these tens of thousands of passages were usually always closed, and would only open once after extremely long epochs. Every time they opened, it would last for 1,000 epochs. After 1,000 epochs, they would close, and all powerhouses who entered must come out before the closure, otherwise they would inevitably perish. Regardless of whether it was a clone lingering, an incarnation lingering, or many other secret methods, they were all invalid. As long as one lingered on the primal star when it closed, they would definitely perish. There were countless treasure troves on the primal stars, among which there were all kinds of heavy treasures, supreme treasures, as well as various materials, treasures, and so on. The treasures obtained in the primal stars, if obtained alone, could be used by oneself. If one did not need them, they could also dedicate them to the human race in exchange for contribution values. Contribution values could be exchanged for various treasures. Contribution values were similar to heavy treasure points and supreme treasure points, but somewhat different. The value of contribution values was lower. If the contribution values were not used up by the end of the primal star, they would eventually be converted into heavy treasure points and supreme treasure points. For universe lords like Lin Hao, contribution values were of little use. Truly precious treasures that he couldn't use himself could be exchanged for heavy treasure points and supreme treasure points. Common treasures that he and his subordinates couldn't use would generally be given directly to the human race. However, for universe exalts with average strength, contribution values were still very useful. The opening of the primal stars is 10 years away from now. During these 10 years, everyone can make preparations, such as forming a team with several powerhouses who can complement each other, or borrowing treasures from some powerhouses who are unwilling to go to the primal stars, and so on. 10 years later, our human race will march into the primal stars, Primordial Chaos City Lord finally said. With that, the Supreme Meeting ended. Although named the Supreme Meeting, in reality, the meeting ended very quickly, without any procrastination at all. The Supreme Meeting had ended, but the meeting of Lin Hao and other Universe Lords had not yet ended. Lin Hao and other Universe Lords appeared in front of the Great Axe Temple. Just now was a large meeting, merely announcing the news of the Primal Stars opening. Now it was a small meeting to discuss the specific matters of the Primal Stars. Because the primal stars were close to the universe origin land, teleportation was impossible here. Therefore, even powerhouses like universe lords had to honestly fly on their way. Inside these 10,081 primal stars, there were also passages leading to other primal stars. Therefore, the human race upper echelons began to allocate their respective stationed primal stars so that they could support other primal stars at the fastest speed. Lin Hao was assigned to the 6,721st primal star, and he needed to familiarize himself with the distribution of the 10,081 passages on this primal star. However, Primordial Chaos City Lord sent a message to Lin Hao privately: "You do not need to be stationed on this 6,721st primal star constantly. Your main task is to familiarize yourself with the supreme true treasure and enhance your strength." It seemed that Primordial Chaos City Lord had already arranged everything. It didn't matter whether Lin Hao went to the 6,721st primal star or not. Lin Hao replied to Primordial Chaos City Lord with a message: "I know." In fact, he was already very familiar with this set of supreme true treasures, the Beast God Undying Armor. He had even created a matching secret method by himself in these 5 years. However, this set of secret methods was only an ultimate secret method of a Universe Lord, which could only be said to barely exert a trace of the mighty power of the Beast God Undying Armor. Lin Hao was not satisfied with this. At the very least, he had to create a matching fusion strongest secret method to be considered reaching the staged goal. Primordial Chaos City Lord continued to arrange the support work of the Universe Lords, ensuring that when the Universe Exalts of the human race discovered treasures, the Universe Lords could arrive in time. This meeting ended very quickly. Before the meeting dispersed, Great Axe Founder invited Lin Hao for a chat. The other Universe Lords left one after another, leaving only Lin Hao and Great Axe Founder. Great Axe Founder said, Lord Hao-shen, when you were mastering that supreme true treasure, if you encounter any difficulties, you might as well come find me. I happen to have free time during this period. Lin Hao thanked him. Thank you, Great Axe Founder. However, a senior of our race has been guiding me during this period, which has benefited me immensely. Great Axe Founder was slightly startled upon hearing this. Senior. Who can guide you? Lin Hao had already created 2 sets of fusion strongest secret methods, and he was already the top existence among the dozen or so Universe Lords in the human race. Who could guide him? Great Axe Founder knew that Lin Hao had once been invited by Zuo Shenk. But what Lin Hao said was a human race senior. Could it be? Great Axe Founder was shocked in his heart, pointed upwards, and asked, Lin Hao, is the senior you mentioned that person? The two of them were in the virtual universe at this time, and pointing upwards naturally referred to the origin land of the virtual universe. And who was in the origin land of the virtual universe? Of course it was Origin Ancestor. Lin Hao nodded. Yes, this senior has been guiding me for over 20,000 years. Great Axe Founder immediately laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Good. With this senior guiding you, then I can rest assured. Lin Hao, you must cultivate well, the future of the human race belongs to you. Lin Hao said, please keep the matter of this senior guiding me a secret, Great Axe Founder. Great Axe Founder nodded and said, rest assured, I understand. Since Lin Hao had Origin Ancestor's guidance, Great Axe Founder naturally would not interfere anymore. The two chatted for a while longer, and Lin Hao left. Great Axe Founder sighed. Lin Hao's talent is truly terrifying. I didn't expect even Origin Ancestor to step forward. In the area on the mountainside of Thunder Island close to the peak, this was where senior Universe Exalts and Universe Overlords lived. Lord of Gamu knocked on the door of Venerable Lin Yuan. I want to borrow that flying palace-type heavy treasure of yours.